And it also may increase your insurance premium.
And I hate tailgaters.
Tailgating causes crashes. Back off. Watch the road.
Welcome back to Aging in LA. Our topic today, the California State Senior Olympics held recently in the Los Angeles area. Our guests are event organizer Cynthia Rosedale and athlete Kathy Bergen. Thank you again for joining us. You know, we were just discussing not only the volunteer help that's needed to run something. I mean, track meet takes a lot of people, but this is a .org. This is a foundation, so donations are important as well.
We could not run or do what we do. We couldn't run the event without significant sponsorship, and I would say probably 25% of the people who participate donate in some.
Right.
And we're nonprofit, so it's all tax
deductible. Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's an expensive event to run.
I'm sure.
Our budget is about, depending upon a qualifying or non-qualifying year, but the budget runs about $95,000.
I gotcha. Well, that's a drop in the bucket for Nike.
We would love it, absolutely.
Well, Mr. Knight, if you're listening, this is
Please.
Actually, it's a good cause.
It's a great cause.
But with track and field, there's not much expense beyond a good set of sneakers and
well, I believe the expense to the organization is for the officials, for the venue.
Of course.
For the certification. I think it has.
Right. No, I understand that. But for the individual competitor, I mean, if you're race walking, what do you need? A pair of shorts and a tank top, right?
Very unlike golf. Where golf is very, equipment-wise.
Really expensive.
We're cycling. Some of our cyclers,
Yeah.
their bikes are worth in the neighborhood of $5,000.
I know, but they are amazing. These carbon fiber weigh 5 pounds.
Right.
That's really astonishing. Now, in the first half of our program, we watched the swimming competition. Let's take a look at senior athletes competing in racquetball, badminton, basketball, and bowling events. '86-year-old Bill Tom competed in the Worldwide Olympics in 1956. Then as a senior, he took up badminton.
I teach junior high school here for 8 years. One of the colleagues, he played badminton. So at noontime, he said, "Hey, Mr. Tom, come and play some game at noon. We'll pay for ice cream after lunch." I was buying him ice cream all semester. Then the year I went to Taiwan, I learned a few things. That's the Asian game. I came back, he buying me ice cream.
Wow, that looks like fun. It seems that they're having a good time.
They love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's so many that look forward to it every year.
Well, I'm sure. And then, like you, Kathy, you can look to really having an edge when you hit that next age qualifying level.
But the Pasadena Senior Games is always my favorite.
Yeah.
I think because of the wonderful experience we had for the first time when I met Cynthia and several other the competitors that I'm still seeing now.
Well, how many events do you participate in per year?
Track meets?
Mm-hmm.
Probably about 10 when I'm healthy.
Wow, that's great. Now, I would imagine you have to have some special health concerns. I mean, you want people to be fit, obviously, going into this, but sports injuries are common at any age.
They're very common. And one of the prerequisites that we have at all the high-profile events is have emergency medical team and staff
Good.
on site.
That's very important.
And they're hidden things. I mean, we have had a couple of people, we've lost a couple of people.
Right, but people shouldn't be intimidated by that.
No,
I mean,
absolutely not.
you get up in the morning and you can fall in the bathroom.
Yeah. I mean, the worst thing that happened this year is a woman basketball player broke a fingernail.
Oh, my
Not
gosh.
one word, that's, yeah.
A calamity.
It was. For
It
her,
can
it was.
be. Well, before we leave, again, the contact information to reach you, Cynthia.
Is the website at
Yes.
www.pasadenaseniorcenter.org, or they can email me at cynthiar@pasadenaseniorcenter.org.
Fabulous. Unfortunately, our time is up for today's Aging in LA program. Thanks so much to our guests from the California State Olympics program, event organizer Cynthia Rosedale, and world-class athlete Kathy Bergen. And now, it's time for today's Senior Stat Shot. For older adults and seniors who want to stay healthy and independent, the National Institute of Health recommends 4 types of exercises: strength and weight-bearing exercises to build muscle and increase metabolism, balance exercises to improve posture, strengthen muscles, and help prevent falls, stretching exercises to improve freedom of movement, then endurance exercises such as walking and swimming to improve heart health and increase metabolism. Always check with your doctor before starting an exercise program. Now, if you are interested in trying a particular sport or activity, join a club and enjoy the company of like-minded adults who enjoy the same activity. Many clubs will offer you a free trial period so that you can find out if it's right for you. Find inexpensive or free exercise classes for older adults at your local senior centers, YMCAs, and community colleges. Try to be active for at least 30 minutes each day, walking your dog, doing yard work, walking around the mall, and even doing housework or gardening will help. Gentle yoga and Tai Chi can be good for the mind as well as the body. And that's today's Senior Stat Shot. The Los Angeles Department of Aging produces this program with CityView, Channel 35, so that seniors living in Los Angeles and surrounding communities are well informed on the many issues that face them in everyday life. And also to let you know of the many services that the Department of Aging offers our senior citizens. Now, we'd like to hear from you with comments on the program, what you like, what you think can be improved, and your ideas for future programs. Please give us a call. The number's right there on your screen, area code 213-252-4088. That's 213-252-4088. Call us with your comments and ideas. We look forward to hearing from you. I'm Paul Peterson for the Los Angeles Department of Aging, the people here at CityView Channel 35, and all of our guests on Aging in LA. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you the next time. Cynthia, thank you so much for making time.
Need a recycling center? Call 311, the toll-free number for non-emergency services. 311, your one call to City Hall.
Don't worry, Patty. This isn't going to hurt me one bit. Hi, I'm Dr. Eric Shapiro in beautiful Encino, and you're watching LA City View, Channel 35. Our city, our channel. Open wide.
Good morning, Los Angeles, and welcome to the City Council meeting for Wednesday, February 9th, 2011. We're here in the John Farrar Council Chamber, room 340 of City Hall. We meet here every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. I want to welcome those members of the public who are here with us today, as well as those who are viewing us on Channel 35 throughout the city's cable system. We are broadcast live on Channel 35 each meeting and also rebroadcast in the evening. We're also available through the internet at lacity.org, where we have live streaming webcasts of our council meetings and archive footage of our past council meetings. Also at lacity.org, you will find a series of links that include our council agendas, our council calendar, all the supporting materials for our council meetings that council members read is available for the public as well, and a host of links to city departments and other ways to improve the quality of your life here in the City of Angels. We also are available through your telephone by listening into council meetings by calling the following number. That's 213-621-CITY, 213-621-CITY. That's called council phone, and you can use that for our city council meetings or any of our committee meetings as well. Finally, you can come here in person or in Van Nuys and San Pedro City Halls, if that's closer to where you live, and listen to any of the council proceedings and testify remotely from those locations. We have a series of cards you can fill out in the back here or in those remote locations to be heard as a public comment speaker on any of the items that are before us. All items receive a public hearing either in committee or in the full council, usually in the full council if they've not yet had one in committee. And we also have a section of the meeting for general public comment in which you can just put public comment in the upper right corner, hand it to one of the sergeants at arms, and we have a section of the meeting for items that are not on the agenda but for subject matter under the jurisdiction of the City of Los Angeles. Thank you to those council members who are here pursuant to council rules on time. Those council members Cardenas, Hahn, Huizar, Labange, Rosendahl, Wesson, and Zine. That adds up to 8 council members, and we need 10 to constitute 2/3 of our 15-member body and to constitute a quorum. We do have excuses on the desk for Mr. Parks, Mr. Smith, who are excused today. Otherwise, we now, with Ms. Hahn and Mr. Wesson here, do expect everybody. Also, council members Alarcon, Koretz, Krikorian, Perry, and Reyes are currently late. If they will please make their way down. It is about 10:07 now. If we fail to reach a quorum in the next few minutes, we will have to cancel a quorum for lack of members. So please come down as soon as you can, and we'll begin the meeting shortly. Thank you. We have Mr. Rosendahl and Mr. Reyes. So with that, Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll? Oh, whoops, we're one short. Sorry, Rosendahl was already in there. So we're just awaiting Mr. Koretz, Krikorian, Alarcon, and Perry. Oh, we will if we don't get it. One more.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Huizar, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
First order of business, please.
That would be approval of the minutes.
All right, Mr. Zine moves and Mr. Reyes seconds without objection. Those will be approved. Next order of business.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
All right, Mr. Huizar moves and Mr. Cardenas seconds without objection. Those will be approved as well. If we can please run through today's agenda, and colleagues, if I can draw your attention to the items before us today for any items you wish to call special. First items, please.
Items 1 through 12 are items noticed for a public hearing. There is a request from a member to continue items 6, 7, and 11 to February 16th.
Okay. Is there any objection to continuing those items? If not, let's go ahead and do that. Okay, Mr. Cardenas?
Item number 6, if we could put item number 6 over for 1 week.
For 1 week to the to the 16th. That's what he said. I just want to make sure it's the same dates. We have 6, 7, and 11 for 1 week. Without objection, special items.
Mr. President, item 1 is the continued consideration of a hearing, protest, and ordinance first consideration relative to the improvement and maintenance of the Case Avenue and Valerio Street Lighting District. It is an ordinance. Considering you have 11 members, would you like to hold it on the desk?
Yes, let's hold one on the desk till we have one more member while we're waiting Mr. Koretz and Mr. Krikorian.
Very good. Items 2 and 3 are hearing protests against proposed improvements and maintenance of street lighting districts. Council should continue the hearing and present the ordinances on March 2nd to consider report of the protests to be submitted as a result of balloting pursuant to Prop 218.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move that for those items. I'd like to call 12 and hold that on the desk. Any other specials? If not, let's go ahead and take up the balance. Please open the roll.
2 and 3.
Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Sorry? Not yet. We're almost there. Those are approved. Next items, please.
Items 4 through 8 are confirmation of liens against properties due to non-compliance of code violations.
All righty. Let's hold 13 on the desk while we await a 12th member. Oh, that was just 4 through 8. Got it. Okay. Sorry. I thought we did the entire balance. My apologies. Let's go ahead and, if nobody wishes to call those special, let's go ahead and prepare the roll. 4, 5, and 8. And tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
As approved. Take up 9 and 10 next. Anybody wishing to call 9 and 10 special from the council? Seeing none, let's go ahead and prepare the roll on 9 and 10 and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Items 13 through 19 are items for which public hearings have been held. A committee report for item 16 has been submitted and distributed to council, and a committee report for item 17 is currently pending.
Okay. Special items, Mr. Labange.
On item 14, can we continue to Friday? We want to get the correct account numbers for the administration of that program.
Sure, till February 11th. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Weezer? 18 for Mr. Weezer. Mr. Reyes?
17, please.
17. For... Oh, you want to call it special. I thought you meant for another council member. Mr. Rosendahl calls 16 special. Other items? All right. Do we have, are these notice for public hearing, Mr. Clerk? Okay, these have been held, so if nobody wishes, the two reports on item 19, are they mutually exclusive, or can they both be moved?
No, sir. It appears that a motion is required. Okay. You do have before you a Budget and Finance and Public Safety Committee reports.
Okay, let's go ahead and move both of those and take up the 13, 15, and 19. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, those are approved. If we can go back to item 1 now that we have 12 members. Let's go ahead on number 1. If nobody wishes to call that special, please prepare the roll. It was continued. And tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
1 is approved. Next items, please.
Items 20 through 38 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration. There are member requests to continue item 31 to February 16, item 33 to February 23rd, and item 34 to March 2nd.
So any objection to those continuations? Okay, let's go ahead. Sorry, so we have to run through the agenda first. There will be general public comment. You can give whatever comments on those items. But if there's no objection to continuation on those items, let's go ahead then, and that'll be deemed approved without objection. Other specials, Mr. Cardenas?
38 special.
Okay, 38 special for Mr. Cardenas. Mr. Weezer?
36.
36 for Mr. Weezer. Other specials, colleagues?
35. What's 35? What's 35?
Points here.
Mr. Labange, call 35 special. And there's other items, colleagues, 20 through 38. And do we have cards on any of these items, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, sir, we do. Item 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and that's it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 32 as well, sir.
32. And 35. And 38. Okay. We'll call those were called special then, so 32 we add to that. Okay, let's take up the balance, please. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Perry?
With, please.
Sorry. Okay.
28 forthwith.
28 we'll send forth that's been called special so for cards, so it's not yet passed.
Oh, all right. Sorry.
All right, that'll take us back to our agenda. We usually, just before public comment, we'll take appointments and commissioners, so why don't we start with item 16, and Mr. Rosendahl, on the interim treasurer appointment.
Come on
Mr.
up, my man.
Angele, if you'd like to take the hot seat, and I'll recognize Mr. Rosendahl.
Good morning. We're all very pleased that you stepped to the plate and you've been acting in that role for the last 6 months. In Budget Committee, the question we asked you, you learned a lot in that, and you've seen a lot of the challenges that we have to face as the policymakers. In your 6 months in the position, what are those issues that you think we should know about right now, or that you would like to get a better sense of where we're coming from and where you see challenges for yourself?
Thank you very much, Councilmember. I'm quite honored to be in front of you here today. I used to work in these chambers, and I'm quite familiar with all of you. I want to say that, first of all, actually, before I tell you that, I want to say that, or tell you a little bit about what we do in the Treasury. A lot of people don't understand what the City Treasurer does, but just a snapshot. The City Treasurer is the custodian, the banker, and the investor for all city funds. And when I say all city funds, I mean all city departments, including the proprietary departments. Our cash transactions are in the tune of $50 billion a year. We have an investment portfolio in excess of $8 billion. So to answer your question, Councilmember Rosendahl, regarding the challenges that we have in the Treasury, I don't want to necessarily say that it is unique to the Treasury, because I do understand the entire city is going through a tough time, and I'm talking about budgetarily. We have furloughs just like anyone else, and I don't want to say that we should be treated any differently, but I will tell you that the kind of business that we run, it is very difficult to do it with furloughs. The banks that we deal with are open every day except holidays and weekends. We do have just a small number of investment officers. We have 3 investment officers and 1 chief investment officer. One point I made a complaint, regarding, the furloughs effect on this, and somebody told me that, well, maybe you should try outsourcing that function. Well, I did try, and I called folks in the industry, and I was told that it's about $3.5 million a portfolio of our size. And that's certainly a far cry from, 3 employees, 4 employees.
Yeah, just one quick comment I want to make for my colleagues here. We cannot furlough people in his department if they're revenue-generating positions and are significant to us. And by revenue-generating, I mean they're investors, and they're working on making sure our funds continue. So when we get into the budget process again in the spring, I've become more and more against furloughs, be it street services and public works to do with the potholes, or in your department where they're managing $8 to $9 billion worth of assets. And so we look forward, when you come through the process again, to point out those positions where the furloughs have happened and the kinds of potential money losses we get, to make a compelling argument that it's shooting ourselves in the foot when we do that.
Appreciate that, Councilmember.
Thank you, Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning.
Good morning.
We've had a couple meetings, and you know my concern about making sure the dollar stretches to the maximum level. The aspect of finance and treasurer, we have a Department of Finance and a treasurer.
Correct.
Why can't we combine those into one operation for cost efficiency and to serve the people in a better fashion?
That's a good question. That's a very good question, Councilmember.
I have some more good ones too.
When the current charter was put in place, I don't want to blame those who sat on the commission, because I know some of them here. But
don't blame Ms. Hahn for that.
There's one oversight that that is evident today. there were two general managers who were put in one department, one reporting to the other, where the treasurer would be reporting to the director of finance. The director of finance is answerable to the mayor, while the treasurer was answerable to council and mayor. That made it difficult, and therefore the two offices had to split. Currently, I know that one of the mayor's goals is to, bring a proposal to City Council to bring those two departments back together.
It will save on the administrative costs, maybe a little more efficiency in collecting the dollars that are due us and the investments that you do as the treasurer.
Based on a quick analysis that has been done, yes, there would be some savings.
And what have you noticed since you've been there? What have you noticed that we can make different, improve, better operation? Because you're basically a caretaker at this time until we assign a general manager, a permanent. I don't know if the mayor's out looking or if he's looking at you to take that position as you've done so well since you've been there.
Well, Council Member, you will notice that, just like any other city general manager, I have to make a proposal, a budget proposal or a request to the mayor before he actually proposes his on April 20th. My staff and I put together requests that had several proposals, including revenue increase, proposal that would increase revenue. One of them is treasury management fee that would increase general fund revenue by $1.2 million. That is something that we could do today if City Council decides to act, or we could hold it until next year. So currently what my office is doing is, putting that money aside. Should City Council decide that they want to use the $1.2 million, then of course they can dip into it. If they don't, if they decide not to, then of course those funds would have to be returned to the special funds.
And then your experience, briefly, what qualifies you to continue in this position?
What qualifies me, because I know how to work with a great staff. The Treasury, I have a great staff in the Treasury, and they do really the best that they can do to stretch the dollars, as Council Member, as you said earlier. And I've worked in the city for a long time. I have an MBA in finance, and I'm very, very, very familiar with what goes on in a financial institution such as the one that we manage.
That's what I'm looking for. Not that you're just a nice guy, but you got credentials to back that up with your experience, not only working in council offices, but working in other arenas and having that experience, that education in the finance arena. That's what I was getting to, because I know you have that.
Thank you.
I didn't want you to be shy about it, because you obviously have the qualifications and the background education to work in that environment as the city treasurer. So you got my support.
Thank you very much, Councilman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I still recall you sitting by that pillar, working with various council members, and so I know you understand the culture of the council. Working with the mayor's office, it gives you a good perspective of the legislative and executive branch and how they work together. Now I assume you're engaging the private sector and how they work with you as they speak to the issues of leveraging and investing and tracking. But you don't invest, you just track money, you process money. Can you?
We actually do invest money.
You do invest?
Yes.
Now, in this, from the stage you're at, when you start viewing the various scenarios as we operate as a city, as a municipal corporation, are you in a position to see how our skill sets could be improved in different departments so that the various departments themselves can move in a direction where they can create revenue? Is that a perspective that you could have, or have you seen that type of gap, if you will, between how we perform as a city when you view how some of the private sector practices, best practices exist out in the various industries? Is that a position that you find yourself in? Have you observed any type of potential changes or improvements in the most general sense of the word?
Certainly, Council Member. I do one thing that there's something that distinguishes, my office from the Office of Finance, which has a primary goal of bringing revenue and helping set revenue policy. My department, however, being a custodian and investor, well, we do care that, I will say that, part of our investment strategy, which is actually the third tier, or the number 3, or the last part of our investment strategy, is to maximize returns on our investment. So that is revenue. This year, we're projecting that we will receive about $12 million in revenue, interest earnings. But in addition to that, we also our department is responsible for paying bank fees, bank service charges on behalf of city departments. That includes merchant fee charges. So what we are proposing in this year's budget is to require anybody who uses a credit card to make payments to the city to pay what we call a convenience fee, so that, because we are charged anytime that a city makes a charge against anybody making payment to the city, we have to pay a merchant fee. So what we're doing is we're asking that folks who pay, whether it's a parking ticket, whether it's a parking meter where they just slide in their card, that the merchant fee that we otherwise would have to pay from the general fund, that they pay, so that we can avoid that cost, but it comes in as revenue.
One of the dynamics, I'll close with this, is that our ability as a city to understand the value of our land and how departments work with the land they manage. I think that's an asset base that we have woefully neglected in many different departments, in many different areas as we function as a city. So you look at real estate, and the cardinal rule is location, location, location. We have that.
Correct.
But we don't stimulate that value. We don't create the kind of relationships that preserves our neighborhoods, protects our historic areas, but looking at the underused, dormant spaces, how that can become a much more valuable asset. And that's an area I'm hoping that we could analyze and promote, so that we can start taking this bottom line to another level of benefit, if you will, given that asset base. So
thank you, Mr.
I'm not sure if that falls within your purview, but if it does, I'd like to hear more about it.
Well, Councilmember, real estate certainly does not fall within the purview of the city treasurer, but I do know that, real estate is, one unique and very valuable, piece of asset. We do manage assets, but they're mostly, securities, financial, security assets. I'll be glad to talk to the general manager of General Services, who is in charge of city's real estate. I do have some knowledge in real estate, but it's not an area that I want to branch into right now.
I hear you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you, Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much, Steve. Congratulations. I'm going to vote yes for you.
Thank you, Councilman.
But also, I'm going to ask council in the coming months to look at combining the Office of Finance and the Office of the Treasurer, which previously was. So I don't want you to take personal offense on that, but I'm looking at every department to see how we can consolidate, lower overhead, and return more money to the general fund. Number one on that issue there. And number two, I wanted to ask you, how much do you have real-time analysis of what is our assets in the bank at this time? Like, last week, did you check to see what is our assets?
We check that every day, Councilmember.
What was yesterday? Do you know what yesterday was?
I can't tell you the exact number, but I can tell you that our portfolio is about $8 billion. That is, we have, in our investment, we have the general pool that has the core portfolio, the reserve portfolio, and then, of course, we have, special pool. The core portfolio is that amount of money that we could draw on and use at any time for emergency. That's about $1.54 billion.
But if that's true, then could we use that for our economic crisis at this moment? I mean, this is what I want to work with the office to know all the facets, to make sure that we have a real-time analysis, because many people do not believe the challenge that we're in right now, but municipalities throughout the country are in severe economic challenges. So I think it's a real-time. I use the example often that some in commerce and in business will look to their managers, they'll call their managers, and they'll say, okay, last week we had a sale. How did everything go? And what actually went out the door? When you look at the film industry, on Monday morning, sometimes even Sunday night, they give a release on the tickets of what films sold what tickets throughout the country. So having that real-time analysis is helpful for us to make decisions, and I look forward to work on that. And also another thing I wanted to express, and I support you, but I'm also looking at the debt collection, which is not under your assignment, but in the Office of Finance, to go to our city attorney, because I think that would be more of a focus if our city attorney was able to do that as it once was done. Both of these were established in these departments in a different configuration pre the 1999 new charter. So I just want to let you know, as I talk and research that, I'll be looking forward to working with you and your staff, but I believe there may be some economies to save that for more service dollars as opposed to overhead. Thank you, Mr. President. Good luck, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That will be our last question from the council. So with that, let's go ahead and prepare the roll. Wait, it's not done yet. And tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, now congratulations, Steve. Keep up the good work. We've had a request to take item 28 out of order. No, sorry, 38. 38 out of order. Dr. Williams, if you'd like to come forward on item 38. Dr. Williams, if you'd like to come forward on item 38, and then we'll go to general public comment just after.
Thank you.
That.
Number 38, Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno. Also member of FAST, Friendly Arroyo Seco Trappers. Whatever happened to the city's support of the neutering of cats? I don't know. We were supposed to get an environmental impact report on the spaying and neutering of cats. Seems kind of strange. But we're still waiting for that. So we'd like to have this one also include neutering of cats. And when is the EIR for this one? Thank you. Reserve 1 minute.
Thank you. Mr. Cardenas, you want to speak on item 38?
Yes, I just wanted to once again thank our department for continuing to make sure that every dog or cat that is adopted is spayed and neutered. But beyond that, Spay and Neuter Month is the item before us, and it's really going to take everybody in the community to help put as many resources as possible into educating every single person to understand that the fact of the matter is this: if you have a pair of dogs or a pair of cats, and they can actually have offspring that far exceed 20 to 30,000 animals when you look at the lineage of them if they're not spayed and neutered, and if their offspring aren't spayed and neutered. So that's just a perfect example of how out of control the situation can get if a society or community isn't spay and neutering their domestic animals. And when we don't do that, we are spending millions upon millions of dollars every year to care for animals which we should while they're in our care, but at the same time having to euthanize as much as 10 to 15,000 animals on any given year, and that's a low number. We were euthanizing in the city of Los Angeles upwards of 25,000 animals just a few years ago. And in the state of California, we're actually euthanizing over 500,000 cats and dogs in the state of California. So spay and neutering is something that we should be doing throughout the state and throughout the country. Remember, these are domestic animals. These are not wild animals. Domestic means that they have now come into the fold under the care and responsibility of human beings. And when we don't spay and neuter them, then what happens is the human beings society ends up putting them down, killing them. And that's something that's unacceptable, and that's something that I believe in this city and in this state, in this country, we need to get to the point where we are a no-kill city, a no-kill state, and a no-kill country. And right now, again, just in the city of Los Angeles alone, we're estimating that about 15,000 animals are going to be put down this year alone. Over 15,000 animals were put down last year in the city of Los Angeles, 500,000 last year in the state of California. So I just thought it would be a perfect opportunity, colleagues, for us to remind the public that we try to do our part as a government, but we can't do it unless the people actually bring their animals in and understand that in the city of Los Angeles there's a law where every dog or cat needs to be spayed and neutered. It's the law. But aside from the law, it's the responsible thing to do. And also I would like to thank the Found Animals organization that is actually helping to sponsor and get the word out as the lead organization during this Spay and Neuter Month in the city of Los Angeles. In addition to that, the Amanda Foundation has been doing a wonderful job. The Heigl Foundation has already committed over $1 million to Springboard, having a spay and neuter awareness not only in Los Angeles and in California, but around the country. That's just one person, one family. So I just thought I'd take the opportunity to say thank you so much to all of the third parties out there who are helping to get the word out and helping to educate the public that it is our responsibility as human beings to spay and neuter our domestic animals, and if not, we're going to have to put down thousands of animals, and that's our responsibility first and foremost. So Spay and Neuter Month is a month of awareness, but also hopefully we're going to see a spike in the spay and neutering going on in the city, and then we'll see that continue forevermore. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Rosendahl.
Yeah, just a quick comment, and thank you very much, both Mr. Cardenas and Mr. Alarcon, for your leadership on this issue. I would like the department to give us all 15 council districts strategies on how they do outreach for people to take advantage of the spay and neutering. You know, the mobile vans they have and some of the service groups that are willing to go out and do it. There are a lot of people in the community, no questions asked type thing, that would be happy to bring, I think, their dogs in and have that done. So if I could just kind of, in a declarative sense, ask the department to get all 15 of us information on how we can connect with our constituents about spay and neutering. I want to put it on my website, let my neighborhood councils know, so we can be proactive with the community. But again, thank you guys for your leadership. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosendahl. With that, let's go ahead and prepare the roll on item 38 and tabulate the vote, please.
12 ayes.
That is approved. And one last, Mr. Labange, were you ready yet for special one, or did you want to wait on that? Okay, go ahead. Don't worry. We'll start general public comment. We may, just to flag that, interrupt that for a reward motion for an item that has come forward. Meantime, we'll head to our general public comment. Dr. Clyde Williams, you're up first. General public comment.
Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno, Northeast LA. Transportation is a major issue, or will be, in Northeast LA because the State Route 710 North Extension Tunnel is raising its head again. In 2 weeks, there will be meetings in Alhambra, San Gabriel, Glendale, and one in Los Angeles. One in Los Angeles? What happened? Last time we went around this, we had about 6 or 7 or 8 of them. But this time, we only get one for the city of Los Angeles. And by the way, they're considering all 5 routes, even though the city council has voted against zones 1, 2, and parts of 3. So we'd like to know who within the city of Los Angeles is responsible for the technical stuff, because last time go around, the Bureau of Engineering said, no, it's not us, it's the Department of Transportation. But the Department of Transportation said, no, it's not us, it's Bureau of Engineering. So we're somewhat confused as to who the responsible parties will be. We'd also like the City Council to ask the Caltrans and MTA to add more meetings for the City of Los Angeles. Oh, by the way, Glendale doesn't have any alignment. Glendale is going to get a meeting. Why Glendale? They didn't give one to San Marino. They didn't give one to Monterey Park. So we're kind of confused. Can we get the City Council to instruct the MTA to give us more meetings for public participation? And can we get them to X out zones 1 and 2? This is the preliminaries before they start scoping. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Just before our next speaker, we do want to take the special one, which is for a reward motion for a crime that has been committed. Mr. City Attorney, on the findings, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since the posting of today's agenda, the LAPD has requested that council offer a reward for information leading to the arrest of the suspect responsible for fatally shooting Jong Kim on November 18, 2010 at 1 a.m. at 10657 Chiquita Street near North Hollywood and Toluca Lake. Immediate action is required to capture the suspect as soon as possible for the safety of the community. Council must first make findings pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2 before considering the substantive motion.
Okay. Anybody on the findings? If not, let's prepare the roll. Please tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay. On the substance, Mr. Labange?
Yeah, thank you very much, members. As a request of Captain Eisenberg and Lieutenant Hamilton from North Hollywood, this tragedy took place right off the Los Angeles River near Lancashire in the a.m. hours. The family is here in our back room to express the city's support, and I ask for your aye vote. I join with Mr. Krikorian on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Labange. Let's go ahead and please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
And we'll send that forthwith without objection. Thank you, Mr. Labange. We'll go back to public comment. Zuma Dog is our next speaker. He'll be followed by Matt Dowd. Good morning, Mr. Dog.
Yes, good morning. First of all, I'd like to go on the record and say I love Bill Rosendahl. I'd like to say he's the greatest spirit I've met in my life, the most compassionate person, and I really love the guy. And nothing can ever take that away. And I hope I'm not in violation of code of conduct, because that is a personal comment and does not necessarily reflect the way I feel of him as a council member as pertaining to Venice Beach. And we'll get to, I'm not even going to talk about Venice Beach anymore. You know what? I got such a case that's going to crush you people. It's not about money anymore. I'm going to be teaching this municipality a historic lesson, the likes of which has never been delivered by any single individual. So batten down the hatches, because it includes all of you. Now, Janice Hahn, let's get right to it. Let's talk about Janice Hahn for Congress. I thought we just had Janice Hahn for Lieutenant Governor. Doesn't Janice Hahn want to be council member? Who is representing the district? How many days is Janice Hahn going to be taking when she's running for council? How many quorums will be missed because you're short? Who is representing the Los Angeles, who's representing the harbor? Who's representing the district when she is not here running for her second consecutive election? I want Janice Hahn to step down as council member and do the best job to become congressperson so she can get the hell out of this area. All right, now let's talk about pension fraud. Go to LACityNews.com, because Zuma Dog is blowing the roof off of pension fraud as it relates to Antonio Villaraigosa, the CRA, and if I was looking into it, I'd look into Ron Burkle, Willie Brown, Richard Reardon, Richard Alatorre, Richard Ziman. What is it with the name Richard? And we can look into Mike Roos, Victor McFarland. I'm tearing it down. It goes to the CRA, Henry Cisneros, HUD Housing. Where's that going to point? You don't want to settle with me, I'm going to mess you up.
Sir, we'll be warned about a threat there at the end. If you'd like to express your opinions, we're happy to hear them. But please avoid any threats. Matt Dowd is our next speaker. Sir? You've just been disruptive of the meeting, and I want to establish that on the record by swearing to this group and by talking when we have other people going. I've been trying to be very respectful, sir, that you have the ability to express your opinions, but when you start threatening folks, especially in this environment, we will take that extremely seriously. If you can please remove Mr. Dog from the council chambers for today. Arnold Sachs is going to follow Mr. Dowd.
Yeah, first of all, that's another as applied. John Walsh goes batty and nuts and goes crazy here, and you give him all these 3 warnings. That's your final warning, Mr. Walsh. Now sit down. So thank you, city attorneys, if you're watching that one. Eric Garcetti, selective enforcement of the code of conduct. Why? Because we sued it. It's garbage. It's vague. It's unconstitutional. You're sitting up there with those flags of the United States of America.
Sir, if you could address the council as a whole, please.
I am addressing the council. Look at this fool. He's trying to wreck the city, sir, even more than you have already.
Again, we'll be warned of items of a personal nature. Please, if you can give us your opinions today, we'd be happy to hear them. And we ask you to please respectfully address the council today.
Respectfully, it's about your performance as the president of the city council. It's pathetic. It's woeful. You're hopeless. You're wrecking everything. The city's going down the tube. See, you just don't get it. We tried to make a settlement with you and make a good one and do it all good, and your attorney promised us, oh yeah, we'll take care of this. So when are you going to start being fair and level with everybody instead of paying $2 million for a guy who ate a bit of dog food? And I brought the performers in here 2.5 years. You took away our income. How do we pay for our cost of living and parking tickets and all these things from performers, Bill Rosendahl? He knows about it. Tell him to sort this out. You know, Eric Garcetti here is trying to run for mayor coming up too. Guess what? We'll do everything we can to derail that. Janice Hahn, anyone, we don't even care anymore because we tried to do the right thing now, like Obama said after what happened in Arizona.
Arnold Sachs, our next speaker. After that will be Daniel Gus in Van Nuys.
Good morning. Thank you. Arnold Sachs. Just like to recap a little bit about some current events that have occurred, some newspaper stories. Councilman Dennis Zine is upset or concerned or wants to look into the Pew reports regarding the council salaries. I was wondering, though, when the Pew report came out regarding the cost of investigation for a murder in the city of L.A. at $3 million, nobody spoke up. Because we had that report saying it was $3 million and councilmen making remarks saying it was around $2 million. So what's $1 million? Well, city of LA has 300 murders last year. 300 times 1 million, $300 million. Not concerned about that. There was a story in yesterday's newspaper, the Daily Breeze and maybe in the Daily News. Measure would tighten DWP's leash. Goes on to talk about the ballot initiatives that you passed. By the way, whatever happened to Mr. Wesson's motion regarding a tax on advertisements, on billboards? That seemed to have gone the way of whatever. In this story, though, it mentions, I don't know, somebody by the name of Nick Patsouris, the former president of the DWP Commission, was a driving advocate of the ratepayer advocate when he was president of the Civilian Board, which is over 5 years. And the reason I bring this up is because after you passed that motion, there was a full-page ad paid for by Working California saying that the ratepayer advocate was being rushed to the public. So which is it? 5 years or rushed to the public? I don't know. Take our word. And finally, Redevelopment Agency, Wilmington, San Pedro, 10 years, may not be able to afford the projects. What about the $930 million that you've taken off today's agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Our next speaker is Daniel Gus. He's in Van Nuys. He'll be followed by Jose Aguilar back here in council chambers. Good morning, Mr. Gus.
Good morning, Councilmember Garcetti. Ladies, can you hang on for a second? So yesterday I was at City Council talking about Brenda Barnett hiring someone with a history of multiple sexual harassment lawsuits against him in his former job, talking about Brenda Barnett's sharing personal information with an alleged eco-terrorist who is banned from City Hall. And wouldn't you know what happens a few hours later? I get an email about 4 or 5 hours later saying this is your final notice, your New Hope updates are due, or your charity's shelter privileges will be suspended. That's all well and good, but here's the email from December 31st at 11:30 in the morning when I gave the city those updates. And here's the reply from Assistant General Manager Kathy Davis on January 3rd, 2011, saying thank you for the report updates. So how is it that just hours after I start exposing problems of Brenda Barnett, that she tries to do this? This is intimidation and retaliation, and this is exactly the kind of thing that Ed Boakes used to do. And the city got sued left and right because city council didn't stand up to Ed Boakes, and it took 5 years to get rid of him. My question is, here's proof that my charity submitted all updates almost 2 months ago. What are you going to do to rein in Brenda Barnett from intimidating and retaliating against charities like mine who are saving lives every day? It is hypocritical to be out there saying spay neuter month, and you don't figure out what's going on with Brenda Barnett. Here is the proof. Why are you tolerating retaliation?
Thank you, Mr. Gus. Thank you for your comments this morning. Jose Aguilar is our next speaker. After that is John Walsh. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm very upset that you has again postponed item 31 for the third time. I came the very last time, and City Council canceled the meeting because you didn't have a quorum. And now I come, and now you're going to postpone it to the 16th. And I don't even believe that this council is going to take up the item on the 16th. I don't know what to believe. You're going to put it up on the 16th? I don't know what to believe. The fact of the matter is, there's people that are elected officials from the East Side Atlanta Project Area Committee. They have lives, they have jobs, and you hold their time in contempt. You hold the fact that they're coming here to testify on an item, and you hold them in complete contempt. I'm very appalled that you did this, and I think you should shoot straight and tell us when this item is going to be up for a vote, and stop playing games, and stop prolonging this, and stop holding our time and effort to testify on the $930 million encumbrance. You should tell us when it's going to take place, and stop wasting our time. I also would like to deliver to Mr. Reyes and Mr. Weezar a resolution from the Project Area Committee that is for Mr. Brown's proposal for elimination of the CRA. And I would like to ask our two council members, who do you stand with? Do you stand with your own community advisory boards asking you to stand with Governor Brown's proposal, or do you stand with the likes of Eli Broad and pay-for-play developers that are just causing indebtedness, and the bond ratings are going to basically be devalued very soon? I mean, this is insane. You guys are basically spending the money, and you're getting yourselves into bonds that you are not going to have the ability to pay for.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. We'll work with the chair of the Housing Committee to see what is going to be happening with final scheduling of this. That's part of the reason it keeps getting continued, but just so you know, it's because this council does not wish to affirm that action at this point, but we appreciate that point. I know we've spoken about that. We'll try to get a date, and I'll confer with Mr. Wesson about that. Mr. Walsh is our next speaker, then Walter Bechtel.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, HIGHLANDS. Put up a new post, 1 million successful server requests last year. Hollywood Highlands, we put up a post on the weekend. Find out, and part of it has Fox News did part of the story, how an LAUSD bus driver got away with sexually abusing a 3-year-old child. It was on Channel 11. Okay, you know what, Eric, or Mubarak as I like to call you, you're only going to be here for a few months because the deal has already been set up by your friends here. You're running for mayor starting in July. So there's a trend. There's always been. You do not elect, this council will not elect you to use your position. So therefore, it's pretty much understood that Herb Wesson will be, come July when you vote, the next city council president. And at this, you notice no one's just telling me, shut up, get on, you don't see any cops in front of me. And if that doesn't work, they will in fact put in either Parks or Krikorian. So you're on your way out. As far as why this has been postponed, it's been postponed because of our legal action. We hired a lawyer. We sent you a cure and correct letter. This is about the $928 million, $920 million you want to hide from Jerry Brown. You violated the law at the CRA board. We now have a lawyer, and we filed, and if necessary, we will file a lawsuit. And this is all, everybody knows that's what's happening in the city. And again, Mr. Mubarak Garcetti, Hahn for Congress, Jimmy Hahn, not Janice Hahn. HollywoodHighlands.org, and go to redevelopment.org.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. We appreciate your comments and prognostications. Walter Bechtel is our next speaker. After that will be Freddie Coronel.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have to make a comment because somebody made a comment on what I said yesterday about the Muslim Brotherhood. I think maybe somebody took me wrong on that. I just want to say that, don't get me wrong, most Muslims, this is from what I read, do not approve of the Muslim Brotherhood. It's like the Aryan Brotherhood. They are a little bit too, would you say, zealous for the other Muslims, and to allow them to come in and take over the government in Egypt would be, again, I'm saying tantamount to allowing Adolf Hitler to take back over Germany, and that will have definitely an effect on our economy here in our city.
If you could bring it back to the city of Los Angeles, please.
Our city definitely is tied in with the happenings that's going on in other cities. And that's why I wanted to say, because somebody made a comment on what I said. Okay, also, I want to reiterate about what I have to say and my freedom of speech. That is a copyrightable thing, and according to the laws of our country, that those things that come out of my mouth belong to me, and just because you copyright them doesn't make them belonging to you. Though there are ancient laws and old laws, even if there isn't a law that is in our statutes, in our city or state or county, we have a statute, I believe it's Civil Code number 7, that says that the laws that are not enumerated in this statute, the laws of England, are sufficient to describe what we are to do under the circumstances. And most of that refers to old music laws, etc., like that. So it still belongs to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bechtel. Freddie Coronel is our next speaker. After that is Mike Kolker. Good morning.
Did you? Yeah. Could you guys just? Oh. Thank you. It's for the city council members. Hello, good morning. My name is Freddie Coronel, and I'm a representative of the LaRouche Political Action Committee. I'm sure you've heard by now the Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission report, otherwise known as the Angelides report, was published last week. And this simply confirms what LaRouche has been saying for many, many years, that it's been the policy of deregulation, it's been the bailouts, it's been financial derivatives, the speculative activity, and primarily it's been the takedown of Glass-Steagall, which has caused this financial crisis. What I handed to the bailiff to distribute is the preface of that report. I encourage all of you to take a look at it. The report itself is over 500 pages, but the preface itself is a very good summary of the report, so please take a look at that. And also it makes it very clear that at this moment the only thing that could reorganize this economy is a return to regulatory measures, such as Glass-Steagall being the primary one. And through that, we can begin to move towards a credit policy to begin to rebuild the real economy of the United States and not focus so much on the markets itself. Now, unfortunately, the neocons have already begun to attack Angelides, have begun to attack the findings of this report. And obviously this has various implications for our city. We should take this as an opportunity to bring this to this city and to the state and to the Congress and the Senate and make it clear, no more bailouts. We need Glass-Steagall. This Angelides report makes that excruciatingly clear. I'd like to have some meetings to discuss this issue further with the members of this body. And also you can go onto our website on Friday. I stopped by each and every one of your offices to drop off a statement that we've been issuing. We're also going to have a rally today at the Financial District to bring more light and attention to this particular matter. So please take a look at that report, and I look forward to having meetings with you.
Thank you, sir. Mike Colker is next. After that is Jeremy Cohen. Thank you for your patience again.
I'm an elected public official of the City of Los Angeles. I'm an elected member of the CRA's Project Area Committee to Adelante East Side District, which includes Boyle Heights, Lincoln Heights, and El Sereno. And I request that I be able to speak from the table and not be limited to 2 minutes, because I have an announcement to make of what we've acted on.
I'm sorry, sir. Just 2 minutes per speaker for general public comment.
Great. Can you reset it at least to 2 minutes so I don't lose the 20 seconds we already lost?
We'll give you a little bit extra, sir, but go ahead with your comments.
Great. As I said, I'm an elected member of the Adelante East Side CRA District, and we did something pretty historic a couple weeks ago, and I think you all should know about it. Unanimously, on January 25th, with tremendous support from the Boyle Heights neighborhood and the Lincoln Heights neighborhood, not one person speaking against it, unanimously we voted for this motion. Motion to support Governor Brown's proposal to eliminate CRAs. It has been announced that the Governor of the State of California has proposed the elimination of all community development agencies in the state. The CRA's Adelante Eastside Project Area Committee goes on record as supporting Governor Brown's proposal to dismantle community development agencies, including the CRA-LA and our own CRA district, if and only if the CRA's tax increment money is redirected back to local schools and local government as announced. This is a unanimous motion passed by one of the largest, if not the largest, CRA districts in Los Angeles, and we're voting to eliminate our own agency. I think it's kind of historic. Another thing is this is the third time we've come to speak to item number 31 about spending almost $1 billion, taking almost $1 billion in tax revenue funds and handing it over to a private company, was what you guys have proposed. And I think that for us to come 3 times, we spoke to you last time, Mr. Garcetti, and you said it was going to be on today, and we come down here, take time off from our jobs and everything to speak. It's insulting. There must be some way the public can know before the meeting starts what everybody else knows here, obviously, that it wasn't going to be on the agenda today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. If it's any comfort, I found that out this morning, too, under our rules. I'll check with folks who are doing the continuations to make sure we know ahead of time and try to let you know. Okay?
There's one more thing. When it is on the agenda as elected public official, I'd like to ask to be actually on the agenda to speak contrary to the actual CRA about this motion.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your comments today. Jeremy Cohen, is next. After that is Armanak Norajanian. Good morning.
Jeremy Cowan, also working with the LaRouche PAC. I wanted to reiterate at least one of the comments that Freddie Cornell made this morning over the fight over this FCIC report, the Angelides report. And there is a fight going on, but what it affords, the fight itself affords, is a window of opportunity to push through Glass-Steagall. And doing so actually represents, it establishes a paradigm shift away from bailouts, bank bailouts, budget cuts, into an era of real physical growth and, in practical terms, generating revenue. But the problem is if this fight comes to a close without pushing through Glass-Steagall, then I think that the effects of hyperinflation through bailout, further and further austerity through budget cuts, is just inevitable. So that's, I believe, the only way out of the economic crisis for the city of Los Angeles and virtually every other city in the country. So I'm asking this council to take that message and make it very clear to our federal representatives that that's what's needed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Armanak Norajanian. After that is Mickey Jackson.
Respectable city council members, fellow Angelinos. Actually, my name is Armanak Norajanian. I'm a liberal writing candidate for city council from District 8, you know. It's most south central Los Angeles. Actually, I urge, you know, Angelinos to vote for me, you know, so I could cut the homeowners' taxes 40%. And I also promise to close down all city medical marijuana dispensaries as they distribute harmful narcotics, you know, and rip off local residents, you know, for immense money of $200 per 1 ounce of this harmful narcotic. We also, and the city must close down those illegal marijuana dispensaries immediately, I believe, because they violate Controlled Substances Act. They illegal and gives a city bad image, of dope dealers, And actually, whenever I called the DA, they just wrote down my information, but they did nothing to close down those, especially Hollywood area, El Centro is located medical marijuana dispensaries. But actually, come to that building, Mayor Antonio Veragos's initiative to build a new football stadium. I actually oppose that. And I oppose it because we need, most of us need to spend $1 billion of city money to build housing for the poor, for working class poor people, because it will divert crime, reduce crime and mental disease. And we actually, and Anschutz Entertainment Group need to find its own private funding, to build any football stadium here or anywhere else. And I also believe that, immigration issue, that we have a number of illegal aliens, that small, short, dark-colored. Sorry.
Thank you, sir. Mickey Jackson is next. Is Mickey here? John, she's not here? Okay. John Walsh? Oh, sorry, we got you once before. Richard Robinson? Richard Robinson, if you'd like to come forward, sir.
Mr. President, members, Richard Robinson. Sir, I'm speaking to you about a situation ongoing in your Honor's district in the entertainment center. Trastevere Restaurant is a unique trattoria. I need not mention to your Honor the prejudice Italians suffer. Suffice it to say that Wolfgang Puck's Burt restaurant was kind of ineffable, the manner in which Mr. Puck was treated in the entertainment center. His Burt was closed by some of the less intelligent folks in the entertainment center who simply sabotaged the owner of Spago's restaurant, Burt. I'm asking that your office contact the manager of the entertainment center in order to add a separate waiting line for those patrons who are seeking access to what promises to be a unique dining experience. Access is deliberately the idiots at Highlands have stopped access on Fridays and Saturdays when Highlands is open to Trastevere. They simply closed. It's ineffable how stupid some people are when it comes to Italians. Buongiorno. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing that to our attention. We'll look into that for you. Wayne Spindler is our next speaker.
We had a little attempted burglary yesterday. Seems that the LA City wants to steal the city of Vernon for itself. Very, very sneaky. One member appeared at that committee yesterday, Mr. Weezar, and he's picking up some good real estate. I have an article from 2003 about the city of Vernon. The city of Vernon was founded in 1905 by businessmen John Leonis and two ranchers. It is considered, according to the Chamber of Commerce, it promotes a city with a city hall that concentrates on what's good for businesses. The city of Vernon owns its utilities and therefore is able to provide its manufacturers with the most inexpensive power and water rates in all of Southern California. City staff is also working to expand its services to businesses in the area of a new electrical generation facility, natural gas service, expansion of the city's fiber optic cabling, and a business and technology development center. That was in 2003. So now, that they've done all of this, who's going to come in now and take it all away? LA City wants to take it. That's a great pickup, isn't it? The city of Vernon and the property owners should fight like hell to stop this from happening. Come here and look at this council. Do you want to be controlled as a colony by these people? You don't want that. You have to fight this. I realize there were only, according to this, a population of 91 people in the city. That's what the issue of voting was, and then we had the scandals with the mayor. But if they take this city over, they're going to annex the utility. DWP is going to get that utility, and all of the businesses are going to be charged the ridiculously high utility rates that we're charged. Say no to this. Stop this.
Thank you. We will now go to item 26. Comments for Arnold Sachs will be our first speaker, and then Zuma Dog. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. I didn't have any general public comment cards, I don't think, from... We'll return to the Valley if we find those cards. In the meantime, Arnold Sachs, if you'd like to come forward on item 26.
Thank you. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. Will this be the new policy where you're taking public comment on all these items again before you actually discuss them? And how about a count on the quorum? It seems 5, 6, 7, 8.
Mr. Sachs, if you don't mind, actually, we did find the two other remaining public comment cards. If you don't mind taking a seat for a second. We'll go to Miriam Fogler in Van Nuys, and then Donna Pearman.
You know I'm incredibly dangerous to all of you, Mr. Garcetti, and the rest of you there, because you know what I'm talking about. And you know the Tower of Babel started our problem with politicians, and it's still not going to end. This is what they've been doing for thousands of years. And folks, our rights wasn't gained until we got our gun rights. So they're all trying to take that all away, little by little, from firepower going to it on 34. The terrorists is a momentous problem that we have in the city of LA, and it affects us here very much because we have people here who are in charge here at City Council who don't see that the public is the criminals because they pass laws against us. Because they want us to fight our government someday like they're doing in Egypt and make it look like, oh, there's something wrong with the Jeffersonian democracy, which in actuality, it's the Tower of Babel dictator who's doing it all over again. And, we don't want violence as much as you don't. But to defend yourself, you have a right to preserve your freedom, and whatever it takes, you have to fight for your freedom. And I don't want it to come down to that. That's the last thing we have to do. So what we have is terrorists who are coming over. 3 young boys were murdered at the border near El Paso, Texas. And that is going to spill over here in the city of Los Angeles eventually. And a missionary woman was murdered by our cartels, drug cartels. So this is just the beginning of the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg. Folks, so 34 is a threat, and the limitation on stop the gun laws. 20,000 gun laws must be
Our next speaker is Donna Pearman, also in Van Nuys. Good morning, Mrs. Pearman.
Doesn't need the CRA, and the Valley doesn't want the CRA. I'm happy to see the other, I don't have time right now, the other city people are finally seeing the light about the CRA. I'm proud of them, and David Salzberg is speaking against the CRA, and you shouldn't have kicked him out. He didn't do anything. How the agency is destroying Los Angeles with that $930 million, which you put to another day. Even all of California, our regional centers for the disabled, at the state level is being cut because of the CRA eventually. Look at the core services. Why the streets are still not paved correctly? Why the trees are being cut My boss, Seisha Gladys neighborhood in Hollywood, Borino Avenue, has big palm trees in dangerous condition. The neighborhood put in a petition. Our city council is waiting for a lawsuit, I guess. Mr. Garcetti, perhaps your office didn't hear about it. They need to have tree services over there. We don't need to balance the books on the backs of the hard-working city employees, most who make $30,000 to $90,000 with mortgages, spouses, children, trees. These employees pay a lot in taxes of all sorts. These taxes help L.A. Many work for more than 15 years. When the CRA spends billions, Daily News even say the schools would finally be funded correctly if that 400 redevelopment agency were disbanded. $1.7 billion would go back to the city coffers. How did this agency get so big? Our agency has 6 agenda items pertaining to the CRA. The big one is $930 million for one project. This is ridiculous. Councilman Roosevelt said Browdy is wealthy enough to take care of his own project and probably save the city. They shared sacrifice. It's not fair to the city employees and even staff. As long as the CRA gets to snap the fingers, you approve with a minimum of questions, only because of Channel 35 cameras. It's all for show. You approved it the night before, like these CRA projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. We'll go back, and item 26 will be first. Yes, Mr. Sachs, we're going to take all the public comments, and so we'll start with 26. Mr. Sachs and Zuma Dog will be on the record for this one. He's been removed from today's meeting. Matt Dowd will follow on item 26.
Thank you. Again, Arnold Sachs. My concern regarding this follow-up audit of the Department of Building and Safety inspection and code enforcement activities actually concerns when you vet, like you did for the Regal Theaters, Regency Theaters at the LA Live complex. I believe Honest Jan Perry said there were like 12, 13, maybe 15 meetings regarding that complex. And in all the meetings, the Building and Safety Department wasn't involved in any of them. And the city attorney wanted to sue or wanted to file charges if the Building and Safety issued the permit, which City Council had the hearing here right in Chambers, and they issued the permit. Well, if the Building and Safety Department isn't involved in the inspection and the safety, will they be held accountable if something goes wrong? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Matt Dowd.
Yes, Zuma Dog wags tail in council's face. That was the heading in the LA Times. Looks like it's happening again. Yes.
He is not talking about item
Department of
26.
I'm talking about, fool. And I'm allowed to say it. It's America's poor performance on his part for interrupting me. I'm talking about Zuma Dog talked all about how you need an audit on the code enforcement activities in the housing department.
Thank you, sir. Do you have any other comments?
No, yes, I do, actually. Of course I do. So once again, Zuma Dog was right. And I'm glad to see that some things are happening over there in this housing department, because we got a lot of fraudulent activity, conflict of interest. Herb Wesson should know all about it because he's chair of the housing committee. It all ties in with what we've been saying. So, yeah, I'm documenting a lot of things that are going on in here, too. Don't even trip.
All right, just a reminder, this is building and safety, not housing, and that's the public comments for that. Item 12, Dr. Clyde Williams, if you'd like to come forward on item 12. Sorry, we missed that one. Then we'll go to 27, and John Walsh will be the first speaker. This is for item 12. Dr. Williams.
Item 12. Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno, LA, and also member of the LA 32 Neighborhood Council. We are basically against any further increase in the number of alcoholic beverage permits in the city of LA. We'd like to have a moratorium on such. There's a lot of people out, especially these days, that are using alcohol in public areas. We have a lot of problems with the package stores. We have a lot of problems with convenience stores. We're trying to control it, but it is difficult with more and more permits. We understand that during the economy, that a lot of people want to sell alcohol because it's a very high-margin commodity. But we are people, and we need the help. Thank you.
Thank you. And item 27, take public comments on next. John Walsh is our first speaker, then Jose Aguilar.
John Walsh, blogging in Hollywood, Highlands, HIGHLANDS.org. And please, this concerns redevelopment. Go to redevelopment.com. That sounds like it should be a CRA stooge, but we got the redevelopment before they got it. So in other words, when you go to redevelopment.com, it's anti-redevelopment because we got it first. They got something else. What we're talking about here is a pre-qualified list. This is all about the $920 million they want to steal from Jerry Brown and the children and the school boards and the counties and create a phony shell corporation over here, because there's no question now. Brown has withstood everything. Your pre-qualified list? No. Brown has let you know that your days are numbered. You know, I never thought I'd live to see the day the Berlin Wall fell and communist Soviet dictatorship fell, but I did. Now I'm going to see the CRA fail. CRA stands for Can't Redevelop Anything. It's an organization that hides like a rat caught in a trap, chewing its own leg off in a panic to escape. It does nothing. And incidentally, I've been called a liar, and that there are no 15-foot floodlight stanchions on Hollywood Boulevard that cost $1 million that haven't worked for 15 years. Well, either they're out there or these people are lying. Go out there and take a look at them. We wasted a fortune building floodlights like the bat signal out of CRA money. HollywoodHighlands.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Jose Aguilar is our next speaker. After that is Matt Dowd. He passes. Okay. He left. Okay. Matt Dowd on item 27. After that, we'll hear from Miriam Fogler and then Wayne Spindler.
Yes. Finally, Jerry Brown doing something good, too, to frick yous all up. Because here's what the CRA is doing. They're basically just transferring wealth from the public into the private sector. That's really all they're doing, is stealing money from the public. You know, enabling people to steal money from the state and the city and everyone. See, all the media stories are out there. It's all been reported on, and finally someone's putting a stop to it all. And here's the shadiest of all. See, these companies, you listed name changes so they can maintain their status to steal more money. That's all they do, steal money under the guise of community redevelopment. Yeah, and I never thought I'd see the day when Richard Alarcon would be exposed, because we were in federal court over that one, too. Yeah, the attorney said we couldn't say you were the shadiest, most problematic councilman in the city, and the federal judge said that he didn't have a problem.
Mr. President, he's not talking about this item.
Oh, Eric Garcetti, and you're next.
Our next speaker is Miriam Fogler.
So you're waiting for the voters to vote whether they're going to increase taxes, and Antonia ran up and told Brown, if they increase the taxes, then you can now, under Prop 25, by simple majority, you can appropriate as much money as you want. Just by simple majority, folks. They don't have to touch CRA then. You gave them a way out by just spending more debt, making more debt. and our bond rating's going to go down. You know, the stealing, thou shalt not steal, is one of the 10 Commandments, should be put outside. You guys should learn about the 10 Commandments. And correct, don't laugh about it. It's not funny. You don't laugh at God. That's mocking God. That's a sin. So, what you're doing, you're using this as a way, you're using Robin Hood at its best. You're stealing from the middle class and the poor to give to the rich. This is a rich. I'm speaking on 27, 28, 29. You know, I want to be able to make you understand that they're making a deal here waiting for the voters to vote whether they're going to increase taxes. Under Prop 22, they've already now taken the money away. The state can't borrow the money anymore, folks. Think of what you're doing. Your apathy's hurting yourselves. Look what they're doing in Egypt. They're fighting for their rights, and here they're taking away our rights. All the way from
I'm sorry, Ms.
stealing.
Fogler, we have a very specific item on the CRA. We appreciate your general comments, but this is about the pre-qualified firms. If you could bring it back to that under the Brown Act. Thank you.
You're cutting me off. You're cutting me off, and you have no right to rebut me. You have no right.
Ma'am, it's not a rebuttal, and please don't disrupt the meeting. We do have an obligation legally to make sure what we're talking about in public comment is the item before us, but we do recommend general public comment for items of a more general nature if you wish to talk about sins and God and other things that are perhaps relevant to the City of Los Angeles. You have 10 seconds left if you'd like to talk about this specific item. Thank you.
This is called censorship, and you're violating my First Amendment. You got 20,000 gun laws need to be abolished.
Sorry,
you
no,
have
that's
no
not
right
what's
to
before us. My apologies. I'm in no way meaning to censor you. This is a very specific state law. It's not a total, absolute free speech forum. It is a forum for folks to speak specifically on the items before us, and then for items that are not before us but under our jurisdiction, that's for general public comment. Wayne Spindler is our next speaker here in Council Chambers.
Well, we got the name change game, and what is all this? The fiscal impact statement. The CRA reports there's no fiscal impact to the general fund as a result of this action. Yeah. Community impact statement, none submitted. Housing, Community, and Economic Development Committee waive consideration of the above matter. Look, you guys, you got all the power. Why do we have these meetings? I got a nice ranch that's for sale up in Palmdale. You can drive up there and hold the meetings at night, and everybody can bring the bags of money, and you can conduct the transactions outside the city limits. Why do this? Just forget the meetings. Just do it all in 1 day per year, and you can take the other 364 days off. Why do we? This is crap. It's not even due process. It's not Brown Act. It doesn't even comport with the Brown Act. So you got no voters. I mean, you're going to have an election. They're not going to vote any of you out, right? You got it all in the bag. You got all these contractors. They're in the bag. They've already donated the money to the campaigns. Janice Hahn's going to go over and grab herself a congressional seat. So she thinks. It won't happen. But she's going to go ahead and you're going to keep doing this. And what eventually is going to happen is that our governor, he's smarter than you. See, you don't understand yet. He came to Los Angeles during the campaign a couple of times. I had talked to him and other people.
Mr. President, he has strayed from the topic of item 27.
Sir, we do have these firms that are before us. If you can please talk about that item before us. Thank you.
Yeah, there's your Tutanich deputy interrupting me. And that's okay. I voted for Tutanich. I'm sorry I did. You know, it shouldn't have happened.
Sorry, sir,
I won't make that mistake again.
With all due respect, that's not what's before us, sir. If you don't mind coming back to the topic, you have 10 seconds left.
All right. Another failure of due process. But the bottom line is that Brown is going to take the CRA money. And when that's gone, you're useless. Just remember that. So watch him. Brown is a lot smarter than you. These moves you're
The
making...
speaker is John Walsh. Thank you, sir. After that, on item 28, John Walsh. After that will be Arnold Sachs on item 28 as well.
John Walsh, HollywoodHighlands.org. 1 million successful server requests last year. They're listening to us all in a row because when they vote, there's going to be no talk. They're just going to as they do 99% of the time, we're going to vote for an aye vote. What's happening here on the CRA is that Dennis Winston, our attorney, now if you may not have heard of Dennis Winston, remember when the former, a very famous lady tried to speak at a college here and received a huge amount of money, former Governor Sarah Palin. Dennis Winston filed a request, a lawsuit, and we found out how much money that Sarah Palin got paid because Dennis Winston filed a lawsuit at the college level. The college says...
Mr. President, he's not talking about this item.
Mr. Walsh.
Dennis Winston has sent you a letter. It is a letter saying that you have violated CRA rules.
Mr. Walsh, we appreciate those comments, but this is about the Broadway Manchester plan, if you can speak to that right now. All right. Thank you. You're out of order, sir. Arnold Sachs is our next speaker. After that will be Miriam Fogler and Van Nuys. Again, just a reminder, we have a specific item that is here before. It's a Broadway Manchester, Crenshaw, Slauson, Normandy 5, and Exposition University Park project areas. Thank you.
Thank you again. Arnold Sachs. Who says the wheels of City Council don't turn? Very, very slowly, but they're turning. This item on the agenda involves about a little over $2.2 million in funding for projects, city-owned improvements including sidewalk repair and street repaving in the adjacent Broadway, Manchester, Crenshaw, Slauson, Normandy 5, Exposition University Park, Vermont, Manchester, and Western Slauson redevelopment project areas. So, let's see, $930 million in redevelopment funds, sitting around, must have been hidden under the rug in the mayor's office that he couldn't find it. Why wasn't this item on the agenda last year? Why wasn't it on the item the year before? Why wasn't it on the item before you considered the layoffs that led to the pay raise of $30 million? Wouldn't this have put people who work in the city, who work for the city, wouldn't these projects have been available then? Who knows? What about the other districts that have redevelopment agency fund? Street repair and sidewalk repair. We heard the chairman of the budget committee say the city can't afford to repair sidewalks, so the public has to do it. Now the CRA is doing it. And I don't see any funding in here for graffiti removal. You know, the $7 million hit that the general fund was going to take. Isn't graffiti removal part of CRA's role towards eliminating blight in neighborhoods? You come up, you say this, you say that, then you go ahead and you create these actions that just show that you're talking so far out of the sides of your mouth you can't even see your lips move.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Our next speaker is Miriam Fogler and Van Nuys. After that will be Wayne Spindler back here.
Donna Pearman is here to be speaking on these issues here. She put in a card for it, so I don't know why you're not calling.
We don't have a card on 28 for her. We do have one on 29, ma'am, so we'll get to her. Don't worry.
You didn't call her on 27. I want my time back.
I don't have one for her on 27. We have 29 for her. But go ahead on your time, ma'am, and we'll do that.
Okay. All right. I understand what you're doing here. What you're doing is you align the CRA, run the show here. They're not even elected private enterprise controlling the whole city, where everybody gets to see certain people getting special services, but the rest of the city just doesn't get nothing, not even tree cutting or anything. You know, that's what you're doing. You're dedicating all that money to the CRA to do all the services now, and the rest of the city takes a cut. So that's what you're doing, and that's what you're doing with our gun rights. You're cutting us. And that's what we have to do. We have to fight back like the Egyptians, to take back our city, to get back our services, to get back our civil rights, our rights to protect our communities from the taking of our money, the stealing that you're taking from us, the taxpayers. You people voted for 22, Prop 22 and 25. 25 gave them a carte blanche, a credit card. You should not have done that. Now they can go ahead and appropriate money for the CRA like they're doing here. for their projects. And the heck with the rest of us. We can go to blazes. Like the Tower of Babel, it's going to fall. And you people are not going to have anywhere to go but jail. You know, I'm much more polite than there's some of the speakers, but letting you know that God's not going to let you get away with it, and you're going to be punished in the afterlife.
Thank you. Wayne Spindler is our next speaker, item 28.
Okay. Council District 8, even-numbered district, re-election. Now they have money to fix sidewalks. Get it? Good. That's how it works. Then another 4 years, you'll be paying for the sidewalk repairs because it's not the CRA that's going to be responsible. It's Carmen Trutanich that's drafting an ordinance to make that the liability of the property owners. But today, because of the election, the CRA is going to fix sidewalks. That's money back into the community. That's taking CRA money and putting it back into the general fund and using it for general fund purposes. That's what I said. Take all of it. On 31, you didn't vote to steal the money from the CRA today. Vote the $930 million into the general fund and take a whole load of projects and do them all this year before Brown takes the money. 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll next go to item 29. John Walsh is our first speaker. Then Arnold Sachs, he passes, all right. Arnold Sachs on 29, and then Donna Pearman.
Thank you again, Arnold Sachs. You know, all these items with the CRA, this is almost like how you start the meetings, Mr. President, when you say pursuant to council rules. Well, there's no punishment pursuant to council rules. So having all these items on the CRA after the mayor has whined all the way to Sacramento about the threat of losing $930 million, it's just, you know, free shots, which gets old. So you're going to have funding for administrative programs, but again, why weren't these programs considered when you were talking about the budget deficit the last couple of years? Where was somebody to step up then? Who's our leadership? Where's our leadership? From this horseshoe? Man, I'm telling you. $930 million just kind of like I said, hidden under the rug. Maybe it was recyclables.
Donna Pearman is our next speaker. She's in Van Nuys. She'll be followed by Miriam Fogler.
By the way, me and Miriam were speaking up on the CRA, and we've been doing it for a lot of years. Anyway, I actually put in the card for 27, 28, 29, 30.
I'm sorry, if you want to speak on those, we're happy to reopen for you on those ones. I didn't get a card on those other items, but we're happy to accommodate you. So why don't you speak on 29 right now, and just let me know at the end what you want to speak on.
Okay, anyway, with all these projects all together, we got up to $4 billion. This one over here is on affordable housing. Looks like this is one of the little projects that's required so that they can steal billions of dollars. The CRA can steal billions of dollars. So they have to put in this little affordable housing so they can look like they care about the city of Los Angeles. And in the meantime, all the billions of projects affect all our city services. All our city services are being cut, and they think that they could appease the people by just this little bit of affordable housing. This is a joke. When only 20% of the CRA money goes for affordable housing, and the rest of the time, most of the rents go way up high. I saw one over there in North Hollywood where the thrift stores just ran off without even paying their bills, all because the rents went sky high. So that what they do is they have this little bit of affordable housing for people so they can see we're a great agency. We're taking care of people. and we're giving them housing what they couldn't get before. We'll get all these homeless people, we'll put them in homes, and see, we're a great agency. Oh, by the way, Mr. Garcetti, the way you're acting today, I wouldn't vote for you for dog catcher. So, Miriam wasn't out of order on when she was speaking. So, and neither was Zuma Dog.
Did you want to speak on any of those earlier items, Donna?
Yeah, let me get my notes.
Item 37 and 38, if you'd like to come forward on those two.
Yeah, we can see that all these projects of the CRA are getting up way too high. Let's see, we got over here.
David Salzberg.
David Salzberg would have known all about the CRA. Oh, I guess 300. Oh, no, we did that one. Okay. Here's one for $250,000 for the CRA. Anyway, Zuma Dog knew all about the CRA, and he was going to go in here and speak about the CRA, but he didn't get to speak on this one. In the meantime, our core services is being hurt, and people are going after the city employees, and they're wanting them to pay more for medical, and they're talking about between furloughs and layoffs, and the whole thing is all this stuff wouldn't have to be necessary unless we go by what Governor Brown says to curtail and get rid of the CRA. I haven't seen it. We've done plenty of years without the CRA. We don't need Villaraigosa going in there begging to keep the CRA projects. Well, it's a lot more important to have city employees and having them have their benefits. I'd much rather pay for their pensions and everything that they get rather than going for the CRA projects. $5 billion, isn't that, $4 billion, isn't that too much for the CRA projects if you add them all together? $4 million. Yeah, $4 million, sorry, I was thinking of the one that you took away the $930 million for the Broward, which shouldn't have been taken away, and I don't know if I'm going to be here to speak on that one. Anyway, I'm against all CRA projects because we can't afford them. We need our city services, not the CRA.
Thank you, Donna, and thank you for your understanding on the rules. And I'm not just saying that to butter you up for my dog catcher campaign, I promise. Miriam Fogler on item 29.
Well, you think that you're going to save money by making cutbacks to core services at the...
You have 1 minute left, Miriam. Just sorry to interrupt. Go ahead. We'll reset the clock. Go ahead. You have 1 minute left.
Okay, I'm going to waive it.
All right. We'll go to item 30. Arnold Sachs is our first speaker, and then we'll go to Donna Pearman. Okay, Mr. Sachs waives that. Ms. Pearman on item 30 in Van Nuys. You have, I think, 1 minute left, Donna.
Oh, I'm going to waive it.
All right. Miriam Fogler on item 30.
Waive it. We're against CRA. Waive.
All right, we'll go to item 32. We'll close the public hearing on those items. And John Walsh is our first speaker on 32. Will be followed by Mickey Jackson. All right, Mr. Walsh waives. Is Ms. Jackson here? Do not see her. Ms. Pearman and Ms. Fogler, would you like to speak on item 32?
No.
Waive.
All right, we'll close the public hearing for that. Item 35, Arnold Sachs is our first speaker. He'll be followed by Dr. Clyde Williams. Just 1 minute left. You have 1 minute left, sir.
Yes, thank you. I know. Thank you very much. An ad hoc committee on the downtown stadium. After last week's discussions in City Council chamber about how open and transparent, yikes, everything was going to be, reading the newspaper over the weekend that part of the deal involves a lease of $1 for the stadium. AEG is going to pay the city a lease of $1 for the property. You know, it never came up in all the discussions you had here regarding openness and transparency and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. $1 in a lease in a city that is sinking quicker than the Titanic went down. Mayor wants to sell the parking garages. What about selling the property here? What about an ad hoc committee to sell the property so that the city makes a little money? Maybe they pay off the debt. And by the way, why is it $400,000 in debt? How old is this west side of the convention center? An ad hoc committee on the stadium. You can't even talk to the public openly here.
Mr. Sachs. And Dr. Clyde Williams is our next speaker. After that is Ann Williams.
Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno, Northeast LA. We're also interested in downtown, but here's one of the things. Ad hoc committees. Well, we've seen a lot of them on various projects. You already have a committee in the downtown. It's called the Neighborhood Council. I'd highly recommend that any of the ad hoc committees be combined with the Neighborhood Council in the downtown area. That is, at least 50% from the Neighborhood Council, 50% from your, quotes, ad hoc selection group. So involve the neighborhood councils. They're free. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Ann Williams is next. After that will be Matt Dowd.
Good morning. Ann
morning.
Williams with the Central City Association. As you know, downtown Los Angeles has experienced an incredible rebirth in the past decade, and kicking off that renaissance was the opening of Staples Center in 1999, and fueled by the recent development of LA Live. We need to remember that this renaissance, which has had an immeasurable economic impact not only on downtown but on the entire region, we need to remember that this renaissance is fragile and its continued success is not a foregone conclusion. Continued investment is absolutely necessary. Tourism and entertainment remain the most vital economic drivers for Los Angeles' economy, and major conventions and other large-scale special events are critical in this industry sector. We believe that the proposed development of Farmers Field and the redevelopment of the convention center are game-changing. The project would have a massive economic impact in terms of job creation, creating over 15,000 temporary and permanent jobs, as well as having the potential to spur additional investment in excess of $3 billion. Staples Center and LA Live turned the lights on in downtown, and building a major stadium here would light up all of Los Angeles. Thank you for your support of the creation of an ad hoc committee to facilitate the further study and continued progress of the proposal.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Matt Dowd. I don't see him. I think he has left. Miriam Fogler is our next speaker. And Van Nuys will be followed by Donna Pearman. 1 minute each, please.
I'd like to speak on number 34. Can you reconsider it?
It was continued, ma'am,
What date?
till the 2nd of March.
Okay, anyway, the $1 lease is a joke, absolute joke. This is a kickback for the private corporations, folks, to get rich off of us, and we left with the bag. Like Arnold Sachs, what he said, very, very good information, and I think that the public should know that you can quickly put a sinkhole very quickly, a quicksand for the whole city of Los Angeles with the stadium thing. I mean, this is a joke on us. It shouldn't be. The taxpayers need to be compensated fairly. I told Janice Hahn, she said, thumbs up. Okay? The convention center should be done through and it should be ours. And it's not going to be done with the corporation money, not one bit. It's our property, and it should be market value, the highest rate, back to us. Private industry can afford it. So that's what we need to do, is make sure that we're entitled to get our full funding back.
Thank you
so
very
that
much,
the city doesn't have a problem.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Donna Pearman.
It's from this convention center. We need to get the money back over to us. We need to sell it to the highest bidder, and all the money be given over to us and saving our city services. If we're going to get this silly football team over here, which nobody really wants in the first place, then we should be able to get total compensation for being able to selling off our things, not selling it for $1 to a private developer. And they make all the money, and they make all the benefits, and we pretty much just signed away anything benefits we get. We got to make sure that we get all the benefits of it, just a little bit to pay off, what building it, within reason, but anything that's left over, all of that should go over to Los Angeles, then we can save all our city services, and then the building should belong to us. We need the building. It says Los Angeles, doesn't say private developer. The thing belongs to us. Let us have it.
Thank you. Wayne Spindler is our next speaker, and he'll be followed by Jose Aguilar.
$1, 1/4. I'm going to put my down payment on that convention center here. So now I own 25% of the convention center. Now, it's going to take 4 years to build a stadium. What's the assessment that the County of Los Angeles is going to get in the 4 years on that $1 parcel? 2 cents of property taxes per year. All right? That's what you're doing. If it was an arm's length transaction and they had to buy the property first, in the 4 years that you're building the stadium, the county would be getting millions of dollars of property taxes for our schools and our teachers and our libraries. Not you guys. Because what you used to do before, the CRA would purchase the property, and the CRA, when it owns property, pays how much in property taxes? Nothing. Because it's exempt. So this is another way to get around to steal money from the county and to give it to the developer while he develops the project for 4 years. Once it's completed, he has a $700 million naming rights. Who's on the ad hoc committee? You need a chairman. You need somebody tough. I got the perfect guy for you, Hosni Mubarak. He would be the perfect chairman of your NFL stadium. He's going to need a new job. He's going to be out of a job in Egypt. Because he would come over here and he would be the perfect thug to get this through, because there's going to be no environmental impact report. They're going to waive all those reports. The traffic congestion was 70,000 people per game, plus events at Staples Center, disastrous. Who's going to pay for the season tickets? You need corporate sponsors to pay for the seats. The seats are going to go unsold. The games are going to be blacked out. The city's going to be bankrupt. Why would the NFL come here? They're not going to come here. They want to go to City of Industry, but you're still going to build the stadium anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Jose Aguilar is next. I think he has left. John Walsh will follow. You have 1 minute left, sir.
John Walsh, belonging at HollywoodHighlands.org. I offer $2. $2. 200%. The future is Irwindale. That's where it's going. In fact, the NFL said, "You tripping, man. You're tripping. We don't even have an agreement, a labor agreement with our players." Nobody is paying attention to this except you and Antonio. Those are the only people who are talking about it. And incidentally, Farmers Field. You know, I've walked through many farmers' fields in my life, and so have you. And you know what happens when you walk through a farmer's field? You get sticky, smelly stuff on your shoes, and you have to scrape it off. Now it's time for you to start scraping off that smelly stuff from your shoes from Farmers Field. And how much will this ad hoc committee cost us? No impact statement. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you. We have card Mr. Norajanian on item 27. We can reopen public hearing on 27. And your card on 38, we had already voted on it, but 27 you can speak on.
Dear council members, actually, I have wanted to speak about item 38. As a pet owner myself, I would oppose anybody trying to regulate, posterity of animals in such an inhuman manner as spay and neutering them. Actually, I oppose this draconian city law to mandatory spay and neuter pets, in the city of Los Angeles, because it violates civil rights of Americans, and they're going to contest with draconian civil rights violating law in federal courts, because it's actually, it's only a sole responsibility of owners, to decide if pets need to be spayed or neutered or not. The government has no right to decide, to meddle in the...
Sorry, sir, we already voted on item 38, so you had a card also in for number 27. I was saying you could speak on that, but 38 we already voted on, so we can't speak on that. You submitted your card after we voted and closed that item. We already took a vote on it. So would you like to speak on 27?
Yeah, 27, yes.
Please, go ahead.
Don't
worry, it's
both
okay.
items, 27
right.
and 58.
Go ahead on 27.
It's the
It's the pre-qualified consultants in the CRA.
I wanted actually for item 20, I will support Article 27 because I want, my argument is that relative to, I want city to pay for those consultants, approve 5 pre-qualified firms, relative, I actually approve activity. With language of this formulation, item 27 is a little bit somewhat difficult to understand, and I would appreciate if we, next time we write anything like that, we make it so simple, so simple we understand, grasp the meaning of what we write, and for one change. 5 pre-qualified firms. We might have put down as well what 5 pre-qualified firms actually are, but actually, all right.
Thank you. We will now vote on the items that were just called special for cards from the public. Those are 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 32, I believe. Okay, if we can please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, those are approved. Now we'll go to the items that council members have called special. We'll send 28 forthwith without an objection. If we can take up the first of those, I believe it was item 17 called special by Mr. Ed Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. And before I start at 17, if we can move number 10 forthwith.
Sure, without objection, we'll move 10 forthwith.
Thank you, colleagues. I call this special. Just yesterday, I received a communication from Executive Head of National League of Cities. And we're at a point in which we have to understand what the block grant cuts mean to our neighborhoods, to our communities throughout our cities. So there's been a big move to address and speak to our Congress members. In the city of LA alone, we have 14 Congress members, each sitting in different committees within the Congress. I would appeal to you, if there is a relationship, if there's an individual, a way to communicate with your Congress members, respective area, that we can make them aware of what these cutbacks mean to those who are of greatest need. When you look at the economic multiplier effect and making sure people stay in their jobs because they have child care, because they have a way to take care of their seniors, because there's a way for them to live under a roof, block grant funds actually provide those types of resources. Unless we make them aware of what the second largest city, how it will be affected by these cutbacks, we won't have the type of pushback that we need in Congress. So I call this special to ask you, if there is that relationship with a Congress member, make them aware. In committee today, I asked for a report back from CDD to give us a very clear picture as to what these cutbacks mean to the city of Los Angeles. So again, when you look at our senior services, all the ridership programs, Meals on Wheels, everything dealing with housing, everything dealing with educational services, recreational programs that deal with our ability to address the needs of our youth, the whole spectrum of our society gets impacted by this. Evidently, there's an opinion section being in the New York Times, I believe, this weekend. It's going to be speaking to the President's assertion of what they feel they need to cut. And this is one of those periods in time in which we really need to push back hard. Those that will feel it the most will be coming back in many of the programs that we currently have cultivated. We'd have to start thinking how our nonprofits will survive this cut, and it goes across the board. So again, my appeal to you to speak to the Congress members of your area, make them aware, and hopefully we can quantify the impact that this will have in our city by next week. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Mr. Rosendahl is our next speaker.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Reyes. You're right on the mark. The connection between the House of Representatives and our City Council has to be stronger than it's ever been. for the issues going forward. We need to do it with Measure R as well and getting that going. And if it's possible, as a point of privilege or order, that we as a council could unanimously send a communique to all the members of the House outlining these issues that matter to us and go on record as a city council strongly asking for them to work with us. And the dream for me eventually would be a meeting here in City Hall with members of the House of Representatives to discuss a lot of these issues, because frankly they come back every Friday, and sometimes they're here a Friday through the weekend or a Monday, and if we could find a way to make that link a lot more dramatically understood by the members of the House. It's to their best interest, because it's our constituents, their constituents, and it's obviously to our best interest. So, Mr. Reyes, you're right on the mark with what you're doing, but if there's a way in which we can do this in a more dramatic way, I would love for us to consider it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Labange is our next speaker.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to ask maybe legislative analysts or whomever, the district director in each congressional office is in congressional offices throughout, reaching out both to the district director here in Los Angeles as well as those in Washington. The great name of Jim Seeley, who was the great representative, is he still in Washington for us? Maybe he could have some ideas to help get it out. No, I don't think so. I saw Mr. Abak. Is he still working for us? He's still on contract with us. Whomever it may be, I think we should come up, and I see our CLA here, with some type of, what Mr. Reyes said, important statement points that would describe what is key to us and how it relates to their districts. Ms. Sue, do you have anything you want to comment on that, if you would just see? Because I think it's so opportune, Ed, what you say. In this world that we race through all the time, often it is, hey, they have it on our mind that Councilman Zion came and said we have to fix the 101 freeway at Topanga, or whatever the case may be. Mr. Reyes, and your passionate victories every day for the river, etc. You and the airport, Mr. Rosendahl. Ms. Hahn, all the way up and down the coast, the impact that you have. Sharon, what do you think?
Mr. LaBlanche, we actually do have several positions such as that on our federal legislative program. We can include whatever it is that you wish to be part of that federal legislative program and take that position. We actually have some of those, and we can transmit those to, I believe actually they're transmitted to the council members on a weekly basis as it is now.
Well, I got that. I'm just saying how to reach out to the district offices or also to the Washington office in the best way to come. Maybe Mr. Rosendahl, following you, maybe an LA Day in LA, that we would ask Congress. When the late, great John Ferraro often, and it's a different Congress, the head of a variety of congressional offices would come to Los Angeles, and we would host them or do something to educate them on the needs of Southern California and Los Angeles. I think we got to look at that. I do know there has been a change as far as how this operation operates within City Hall. Is that correct, between the mayor's office and the council?
Yes, the council actually takes the legislative position. The mayor's office does the lobbying on behalf of the city based on the positions adopted by the council.
Right.
So that did change as part of the charter that was adopted in 1999.
So we should look at that to beef it up so we can continue to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes.
Council President, I know given the charter the way it's structured now, it's the mayor's office who takes the lead in actually doing the lobbying in Washington, D.C. If we can have a report from the mayor's office to let us know what they're doing in D.C. Now that Mr. Seeley is on contract, we don't have that direct connection anymore. But if we had a briefing, understood what they're doing in D.C., so we know how to coordinate our message with the respective Congress members, so we're all on the same page. I know the mayor is now, I guess, chairing or the mayor's conference, and so that's one body of elected officials. But as a council, again, the second largest city in the country, we should be aware of that level of coordination. So I would humbly request that we can have the mayor's office give us a briefing on what actions are being taken, what's the strategy in dealing with these cutbacks with block grants. Now, would that be a formal request? Is that a motion?
We can include that as part of this to ask the mayor's office to respectfully, request that they come in. We can also adopt as a separate motion to Mr. Rosendal's point. I would introduce a motion specifically, maybe you both or whoever, on the block grant, so we can adopt that as an official plank of our legislative platform for this year. I know the National League of Cities also is taking that up, and the Congressional Black Caucus has made this one of its 2 top priorities, as well as the Congressional Hispanic Caucus this year. So I know we've had hearings as well. One last note with Congresswoman Maxine Waters, who's the minority leader or the ranking member on the subcommittee that oversees the block grant, and we could invite her here to perhaps have a hearing as well. So why don't we recommend that you do maybe a separate motion on the block grant money, but in the meantime ask the mayor's office to come in and report on that as well. Okay? Let's go ahead and prepare the roll on this item and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
That brings us to item 18, called special by Councilmember Weisar. There is amending motion 18A.
Okay, Mr. Weisar, number 18.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure the amending motion was in. It's technical in nature. I'd ask for your approval. Thank you.
All righty. Let's go ahead and prepare the roll as amended and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
All right, that is approved. And next we'll go to item 35, and that was called special by Mr. Labange.
Mr. Miller, I guess if you could come to the center table. Members, I think I asked before, we spoke of this issue. On this issue here, we're in a process to see if this is good for Los Angeles. As you said last time, the Staples program was good for Los Angeles, okay? Could that be fully disclosed on our city website so people see what that was that brought about Staples, LA Live, that arrangement we had with the development company in a understanding way? Could that be done, Mr. Miller?
Sure, we could put together a summary of that transaction.
Got it. And also, could you explain on the taxation? And they say no tax. Headline today, no taxes will be used. Does that include the bonds? Or the bonds that we owe right now at the convention center, are they taxes?
Well, they're tax-exempt bonds issued by the city. They're being paid back from general fund.
So that is taxes, right?
With the existing bonds, certainly.
Got it. So this is all our plan, and all we have to remember, and I say this, members, it's a horizon. If this is good for Los Angeles, at the end, it will be good for Los Angeles. But to not say that the bonds are not taxes, which somehow is described, does not help us in our effort to inform the public that this is an opportunity that would not use taxpayers' money. Those bonds that we are obligated for the addition, are taxpayers' money, correct?
That's right.
Right. So if this is the project it should be, notwithstanding all the environmental challenges that are surrounding any site, let's make sure we have it fully explained and make that decision. And also, the one thing that I did talk about, Mr. Wax brought up 1% for the arts. I absolutely believe in 1% of the arts, but I believe if this is an athletic stadium, there should be 1% for athletics. One of the great issues of the '84 Olympic Games was that of the LA Foundation, where right now, throughout our community, there's a legacy to the games that raised the revenue from the games went back to help athletics, from swimming to running to a variety of sports. So that's a very big thing for me. If this is a good deal, I don't want to see taxpayers' money used, but I want to see it fully disclosed so people understand it. Many people send me emails that are very concerned about this, and I don't want to lose the horizon that we look to. I know it's difficult times, but remember, this building was built in difficult times. The Coliseum was built in difficult times. When we were a young city just emerging to welcome the world for the 32 games. So I just want to make sure that's cleanly stated in our discussion as a committee on how those taxes would be made. And also the issue of traffic. There's no question that there has issues of traffic and how it is dealt with. If it's good, it will stand good. There may be some people who are opposed to it, but let's have all the facts on the table. So I wanted to make that friendly amendment to fully explain that those are tax monies. They're not like bonds for the commission. Those are tax obligations that if we didn't pay them, they'd come after us, right? The tear down of the convention center, the $335 million.
I'm a little bit confused, Mr. LaRange. There's about $460 million left on the convention center.
Right.
Those are obligations of the city's general fund. Those are being paid off with taxpayer money.
Okay, and when if we didn't have the stadium, when would they be paid off?
I believe they would be paid off in around 2030.
2030. Okay, so I'm just saying there has to be a mechanism that assures the public that that's the right thing to do. And if it is, to engage in this, because we are taking down an asset. Another giant plus about this is the convention issues that relate to what could happen down at LA Live and Staples. And I'm proud of Farmers Insurance. They're in my district. They're on Wilshire Boulevard. And if they chose that this is a good thing, then that's a good thing too. But I wanted to just state that for the record, that we're not fooling people to say no taxpayers' money is going to be used. Well, if we own the land, that's taxpayers' money. If we're doing the obligations, that's taxpayers' money. I want you to fully disclose that through your process. Okay?
That will be very clear.
Thank you, Mr. LaBonge. Mr. Krikorian is our next speaker, and then Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. LaBonge, for starting to raise some of the questions that I would hope this committee would be reviewing in some depth as we examine this potential project. I have a few questions now, not so much on the substance of the project, because that will be within the province of the committee to look at so much as process. So I'd like to understand whether from Mr. Garcetti as the mover or from Mr. Miller, as we set this committee up, do we have a sense yet of what the meeting schedule for the committees would be, or its size, whether or not the meetings would or could be televised on Channel 35, and what the Brown Act impacts of this committee would be as well? I assume that this committee is going to be fully compliant with the Brown Act. I guess, my question would be, would that impact the potential jurisdiction that other council standing committees might have to consider the same questions if there's overlapping membership? So that would be one question I would have on the Brown Act. And then motion 35A refers to this committee superseding any existing or prior ad hoc committee relative to the issue of stadiums. So I'd like to understand what that superseding issue is about, whether there are existing or prior ad hoc committees, and what the impact of this is. And then finally, I'd like to ensure that the scope of inquiry of this committee, although it's not stated specifically in item 35A, I think it's implied, but I would like it specifically to make reference to the fact that the potential environmental impacts of the committee of the project would also be considered by this committee. So I think that covers my questions, if you got them all down, Mr. Miller. If not, I'll be happy to come back to it.
Well, perhaps I can address two of them, and I think perhaps the council president, in terms of the committee makeup, it is going to be subject to the Brown Act, clearly. The city attorney can address, we've had ad hoc committees before, and if there are common memberships to other committees, that has not been a problem. There was a former ad hoc stadium committee. Actually, I believe it was originally started many years ago when Houston got the franchise, and then it was reinvigorated when, again, the Coliseum was being looked at. So there was an ad hoc committee at that time.
I can address a few of those things. The whole purpose of an ad hoc committee, like our standing committees, is to make sure that there is a Brown Act accountable public process with daylight, with sunlight, with public comment, with all of our materials being as easily accessible for everybody. We've established a number of ad hoc committees under my watch, I think it's just the economic reinvestment and recovery one. But while I've been a council member, we've established the River Ad Hoc Committee. We've established, we reestablished the stadium one when it hadn't been around for a while. Mr. Miller's correct that there had been an older one. This is how long football's been talked about. There was an original one. That was disbanded when there wasn't much work. It was re-put back together when there was some momentum on the Coliseum. We have a couple other, we did ad hoc committee on homelessness that Ms. Perry chaired. We had, which one? A Renew LA committee, which actually still does exist. That's chaired by Mr. Smith to specifically look at the problem of our use of dumps and that our landfills were coming to a limit, and to try to figure out what we can do for the future. So they're created, I'm not a big fan of ad hocs unless we have a very specific mission for them. So I don't like them to stay forever, which is part of the reason we reduced them over time. But when there is a specific item as important and as big and has had as much attention as this, it doesn't supersede the authority of other committees. Other committees can hold whatever hearings they want on them as well, but it's a guaranteed place, a one-stop shop, if you will. I'll be looking for a diversity of opinions on the committee. I won't be looking for people who are yes men and women or no men and women. I'll be looking for people around this horseshoe who actually do good public policy. And I know a lot of you have already said you want to be on the committee. I'll take that under advisement. We have to create it first before I can even begin to consider who's going to be on it. But I know it would be good people to represent all the interests of the taxpayers of Los Angeles and not be desperate to make a deal, but to make sure that we look at this very soberly, very sanely, and see what advantages there are and disadvantages. I also think we may need to look at outside help to give us advice, not just an economic analysis, but I'd like, certainly as a council member, for my constituents and taxpayers to have people who have experience with these deals who can tell us what are the pitfalls, what are their advantages, how have these been done in other places, how do football stadiums compare versus, an arena, which we've had a good experience with here. But making sure all those questions are answered, we may also need to bring in some of those experts to the ad hoc committee and to help our CLA and CAO as they engage in any discussions about any possibility of that. So I hope that answers the questions. If the 35A language was just legal language that we were told that we have to first, it's standard for all kind of boilerplate for establishments of ad hoc committees, and I guess it has to supersede the previous ones just to make sure that there isn't overlapping jurisdiction.
I'm done.
Mr. Zine?
Thank you. Mr. Miller, the mayor has established a committee to review this. How is that going to work along with the one that's been established by the council? They have a who? They have a bow on them. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Alicant. So we're going to have, obviously, a lot of review, but the mayor's got his, and I've read some articles regarding some of the participants. We're going to have ours. How's that going to work? And what is your role?
Well, if it's established, the ad hoc committee and then ultimately the full council will be the one giving direction relative to city policy and negotiating posture and to resolve the deal issues, in an effort to get an agreement that does, is in the best interest of the city and is an agreement the council will buy off on.
Well, the mayor's done one and we're doing one. So, I'm trying to see how this is going to work down separate paths. Do they clash in the center? Do they work together? Is there some agreement? That is an issue. Normally we have one group of individuals that's pursuing. Now you've got two groups and coming from different angles.
Well, again, the official group that is going to be overseeing this is going to be the city council.
Okay.
Now, the Mayor's Blue Ribbon Commission, of course, we will involve them, certainly not before and until the council is aware of what's going on, but I think that all of the input that we can get in terms of the final transaction that comes forward is going to be important. They will not be part of the negotiations, but certainly we're going to be working with them to get their expert opinions on what a final deal looks like.
And the issue of the convention center, the hall that's supposed to be torn down, will there be another facility to replace that while we have conventions, or what will happen with the conventions while this process is taking place?
The intent is to replace the West Hall with a new exhibit hall before the West Hall is torn down. Now,
Before it's torn down.
Before it's torn down. Now, clearly, we're going to need to get in discussions and look at timing on that, but that is the sort of the starting position. And I think it's important to note here that I'm viewing this as an opportunity to do something that the city is going to have to do anyway. The West Hall is 50 years old. It requires tens of millions of dollars of capital investment to bring it up, and I know Mr. Abbasi's spoken to me, to Miguel, to many of you about that. So I view this as an opportunity to get a public facility leveraging private funds. This is not using public money for a private project. The stadium is going to be financed with private money.
Right.
The goal will be to get private money and new revenue to help offset the public investment in the convention center so that the taxpayers don't have to foot the bill. But at the end of the day, that convention center is ours and our responsibility.
And the issue regarding the football team, is this all based on the football team actually signing for Los Angeles, or is this incidental to that? In other words, are they connected, or are they separate?
In the final analysis, they're going to have to be connected, and whatever agreement comes forward and is approved by the council is going to have to make sure that the protections are in place. And I go back to the Staples Agreement. There are agreements in there, requirements to maintain teams, to maintain the activity in the center. There's going to have to be similar language in this relative to the stadium. So they will ultimately be linked, yes.
Are we on any talks regarding the NFL and their opportunity to come to Los Angeles, or is that all done by other folks?
Those are all occurring between the AEG and the NFL.
Between what?
AEG and the NFL. The city is not part of those conversations.
Yet that is the basis for building the stadium.
Well, moving forward with the deal is obviously going to be contingent upon AEG securing a team and having the agreement with the team meet the needs of the council to move forward on the deal.
Okay, so when they bring forth a team, then the council will get involved in that aspect to determine certain provisions to make sure that the taxpayers aren't paying for this particular aspect.
Exactly.
Okay. And the annual, you said $460 million left on the convention center. Is that the entire convention center or just parts of it?
That's the entire convention center.
And we're paying $48 million a year on the debt? Is that what our annual tab is?
I believe it's about $45 million. Yeah,
$45 million a year?
Yeah.
So that's the entire complex, not just the West Hall, it's everything regarding the convention center?
It is.
Total debt?
Yes, since the West Hall is the oldest, it has the least debt associated with it, and the CEO is going through that analysis now.
Okay.
The vast majority of the debt does not relate to the West Hall.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Garcetti? Mr. Alarcon?
Mr. Zion, with regard to the convention center, you can't just look at the time lost during construction. You have to look at the time moving forward in terms of the amount of business that will be generated. So that's one thing that was missing in the Daily News editorial the other day. Mr. Garcetti, I believe that there's a lot of hyperbole about this, and I've been through this already with the Staples, and I remember Councilman Wax. There's always one or two members that say, we got to preserve the taxpayer dollars, and I'm all for that. I mean, why wouldn't we want to protect the taxpayer dollars? I mean, that's an underlying assumption. And then at the end of the day, it was Mr. Wax who conceded a $10 million tax payment that sealed the deal. And so I take things with a grain of salt, because everybody wants to position themselves to get play in the press, and this is a group effort. And all of us have to work toward the benefit here, otherwise it won't work. But everybody's going to take hyperbole in different directions. But what I think would reduce, might minimize some of that, is if we set forth the principles as we enter into this discussion. What are the principles that we take into this discussion? So number one, we will ensure that no taxpayer dollars will be used. Number two, that we ensure that every person in Los Angeles will be able to have access to affordable seats. Whatever principles we decide, but it seems to me that one of the first tasks for the ad hoc committee should be to state what are some of the principles that we can all agree to going into this discussion, so it's clear to everybody, the NFL and the developers included. So I would like to add a friendly amendment that the ad hoc committee report, as one of its first orders of business, to report back to the council on a list of principles that would lead us through this process. Okay. The ad hoc committee.
I think so. That's a good idea. Let them take it up.
Then we disagree. Thank you.
Ms. Hahn. Janice.
Thank you. I'm certainly, going to be very supportive of the more eyes we can have on this deal, I think the better. This is going to be about checks and balances. We know the mayor has a blue ribbon committee who's going to take a look at it. I began looking at this in my Trade, Tourism, and Commerce Committee and began asking the questions that the Daily News said none of us were asking. I asked, what impact is this going to have on the convention center? What does this mean for conventions already booked? What does this mean for conventions that we're hoping to get? How does the construction impact an ongoing, vibrant convention center? So we are asking these questions, and I think, Paul Krikorian, you need to keep asking the tough questions, because the only way this is a good deal for the city is if we ask the right questions. And I agree that this working group, this ad hoc group, ought to immediately set forth parameters on how they're going to evaluate everything, because then you have a pathway to getting a good deal for the city of Los Angeles. I have looked at this as getting a new convention center. When I began to understand that really this was about making our convention center the top 5 destinations in the country to attract conventions, that perked me up, because as you said, it's dilapidated in some places. And by the way, I don't see us appropriating $50 million anytime soon to modernize the convention center. And at first blush, it sounded like we were going to get a new convention center on somebody else's dime. And so that was an interesting prospect, because I don't think this is going to be about 9 games and maybe a Super Bowl, although certainly Dallas-Fort Worth really saw lots of money coming into their economy from Sunday's game. And it's certainly going to be about the NFL. And whether or not they give us the nod on whether a team is coming here. I tend to hope maybe we're looking at expansion teams. I still like the idea of a people-owned team like Green Bay. I think that was a good model, and it would make sure that the team stayed in Los Angeles, that we wouldn't be held hostage someday by teams negotiating with other cities for a better stadium. But all those things are what we have to look at, and the only way this is going to work is if this ad hoc committee really looks at everything. I looked at it in my committee, but this committee ought to look at the impacts to the convention center. This ad hoc committee ought to look at the financial analysis, the independent financial analysis that we are commissioning to look at this deal. This committee ought to look at what it means to issue $350 million of bonds on top of the $450 million that we already have associated with the convention center. How do those revenues get paid back? Is that just from a ticket tax at the stadium? What if there's something that happens to the stadium to prevent that? So, these are the kinds of things we have to look at. And we know, Jerry, your working group is certainly going to negotiate those things. But I hear it too, Tom. People want to talk football. People love the idea of bringing football back to L.A. but we are every day cutting services. We are every day talking about more furlough days. We are reducing what we're able to provide to our residents. They don't want to be on the hook for football in Los Angeles. If it makes a good deal for the city, though, I think this could be, I hate to say it, but a win-win. We get a new convention center, and by the way, that's what revives our economy, Tom, is conventions. That is more hotel rooms. That is people eating in our restaurants, shopping in our shops, adding to our local economy.
Thank you,
but I think the only way this works is if we have eyes from all over looking at this deal to ultimately make sure that it works. And I am all for more folks taking a look at this deal for our taxpayers.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you very much, and thank you all, colleagues, for our very healthy discussion. Some questions for the record that I'd like to get back. With a special tax on every ticket sold, is that potentially, could we do that for general fund revenue? Second question is, if we're using the ticket tax to pay off the bonds, isn't that technically public subsidy? Third question there are recent studies that prove a downtown stadium arena will it have anything more than a minimal impact on the economy in the surrounding area. How many of the potential jobs created as a result of the stadium will be permanent? Why can't, just as a theoretical thought, why can't AEG float the bonds necessary for construction? And how much is the average ticket going to cost? And my last point again is naming rights. Can we get a piece of that naming rights? Now, I just throw that out there as discussion points, because when the day comes, frankly, that AEG puts a proposal before us, then we'll see where they're coming from and where they want to go. But frankly, back to my original point a few days ago, I don't want to use taxpayer money directly or indirectly. For instance, when they built that beautiful Ritz-Carlton, I mean, it's a great hotel, but no bed tax for 25 years. Some people said that's maybe $300 million that we don't get into our revenue stream here. Now, maybe we shouldn't have given them a subsidy for that and ingratiate that thing. That money could have gone and helped us on a lot of other issues. So I just want to say, number one, I think it's fantastic we have an ad hoc committee, transparent, open process. But when you get in a room with a bunch of business folks, you better have a better understanding of numbers when you negotiate deals. We're not going to be doing that as an ad hoc committee. Obviously, Jerry, you're going to be doing that, and others within our city staff here. But when they come in and say they can do this and can do that, always look at the hidden costs or the long-range costs that might come out of different aspects of the situation. I will say this about AEG. They put a lot on the line downtown. They've taken LA Live and made it a real spot and a real exciting moment. Everybody knows downtown has become a different downtown than it was 20 years ago or 15 years ago, even 10 years ago. It used to be museums and art. Now it happens to be entertainment as well. And people are loving that. So I think they're in a position, frankly. They have invested so much in LA that it's to their best advantage to figure every angle that they can pick up and take risk on so that there is no risk, short-term or long-term, hidden costs or indirect or back again types of dollars and cents that we have to do. And that's all I just want to say at this point, but I think this is the right tack that we're all using here right now. But I want some of that naming rights money if they were to ever to get to that, since we created all that stuff with them, with public land, with private land and all that. And as I drive on the 110 off of the 10 in the evening, I am getting pretty hit hard with all that visualness. That could be an issue, but frankly, if you see that Farmer Stadium, if that's what it's going to be, all that was created with the combination of public-private partnership, so automatically I don't say they get the naming rights. That's part of a negotiation strategy, and frankly, if it were to get to that level and they would have naming rights, I would like the city treasury and the general people to also benefit from it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And appreciate everybody's comments on the larger issue. Just as a reminder, and our city attorney also reminded me, what we're discussing here today is the creation of the ad hoc committee. So as much as we can limit our discussions to that, that's precisely why we can then take the second step of these wider discussions, which will always come to council as well. So I know it's hard, but we want to make sure that we're doing that. Ms. Perry is our next speaker, Mr. Krikorian, Mr. Labange, and Ms. Hahn.
Thanks, Mr. Garcetti. I just want to review something very simple. The working group
no elected officials, the very experienced, highly qualified expertise in municipal finance people who are here in the city, Jerry Miller and Miguel Santana, and their team of people they assembled with no elected officials to just do the hard and tedious work, paragraph by paragraph, line by line, to be able to bring something, a deliverable, forth to the ad hoc committee so that we can have something to examine. I gave Mr. Miller a document from the Council File Index from actions that were taken back in 1997. And some of us were here as staff people. Mr. Alarcon was here as a council person. But I wanted to ask him about item number 8, which people keep referencing, and I'm not quite sure they exactly know what they're talking about, so I thought I'd put it on the record. Authorize the CRA in advance of the second supplemental trust agreement to take any and all actions necessary to provide security for the agency's obligation to repay the commitment of $12 million provided by the developer for cost of property acquisition and related activities for the project, and the obligation will be repaid with interest compounded annually at a rate of 6.77%. I just wanted Mr. Miller to explain what that meant and put it in context so that people could understand what happened in the first iteration under Staples.
Sure. Well, this was 14 years ago, but I do think in my memory, this is correct. Sharon was there as well. We're the last two people in the city that were actually in the room in those negotiations. What occurred is a proposal came forward providing credits against the obligation to Staples based on some of the net incremental tax revenue, business sales, etc. Now, as you know, that construct is very familiar. We've done that in big projects and small projects throughout the city. Chesterfield Square, Pacoima Plaza, etc. Same concept. What occurred is that the council, led by Mr. Wax, objected to those credits, and they were taken off the table. That money was then backfilled by $12 million from the Community Redevelopment Agency. So they did not get credit against any of those business taxes, but they did get $12 million from the CRA for land acquisition.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Krikourian.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just coming back to a couple of the points that I had raised earlier. Is it possible for this ad hoc committee to have its meetings be televised so that the public can fully participate in the proceedings on Channel 35? And Mr. Garcetti, I'd also be interested to know if you would be willing to accept that as an amendment to the motion to ensure that these meetings be televised, given the gravity of the importance of what we're talking about.
Let's work just on budgetary thing. We'll make sure that it's at least streaming online, and we'll work to see if it can also get on TV.
And likewise, I have a motion before us, 35B, which, if you'd be willing to accept, to ensure that the documents that are presented to the committee also be included online to be available to widely to the public.
Sure. As we do with all ad hocs, we'll make sure that happens.
Great, thank you. Now, related to that, because there will be presumably some cost associated with the administration of this committee, the items that we just discussed, and otherwise you mentioned getting outside expertise and doing some other things. I'd like to ensure that the costs of the operation of this ad hoc committee be tracked so that at some point in the future, if this development is approved, if it goes forward, consistent with the developer's assurance that this development will not cost taxpayers a dime, that the cost of the operation of this ad hoc committee be requested to be reimbursed by the developer consistent with that assurance that we've been given.
I don't like that.
Well, the city attorney wants us to look into a couple issues of that, but let's take that up as a recommended item of business for the ad hoc.
Okay.
And again, folks,
then we'll be considering that for a future motion then. And then finally, Mr. Garcetti, I think again, I think it's implied in the language of Motion 35A, but I would like to ensure that environmental impacts are included among the items within the jurisdiction of the committee. I think that was your intent when you mentioned community impacts in here, but I'd just like to make sure that is.
Sure, let's make that community and environmental impacts.
Thank you. And then finally, one last point. I'm not sure why there was discussion about hyperbole and posturing and positioning here, but I certainly couldn't agree more that in dealing with a matter of great importance like this, the last thing we should be doing is engaging in hyperbole and posturing. And for that matter, when it comes to anything, whether it's the budget or otherwise, that's the last thing we should be doing. What we should be doing is getting down to the hard business of digging into the policy and making the hard decisions that we're elected to make. And that's what I've been hoping to engage in. I think that's what all of my colleagues are hoping to engage in as well, and I hope that that will be the work of this ad hoc committee.
It will be. Mr. Labange.
Strictly on the record, Downtown Stadium Committee. How about Downtown Stadium Committee / Convention Center renovation and expansion? Because Ms. Hahn, you said that. It's so true. If this works, it works. If it works, it works because the Convention Center made it work. The Convention Center is moving its building to another site. So can we add that? Because that's the big test for me. Richard spoke of when he was here at Staples. I've been here since 1972. I've been involved with the 71, involved with the National Football League, very involved as a camera assistant until the Raiders and the Rams both left. Saw the game, was around all the people, been through the dances many times. You know, why they originally left the Rams is because the Coliseum elevator was broken, and Carol Rosenboom didn't like walking all those stairs, and they went for land in Anaheim. Why the Raiders went back to Oakland is because they never should have left Oakland, but when they did well when they got here. I got that, Janice. So with that being said, Mr. Maker of the motion, could you add to it Convention Center renovation and expansion? Because that's a big, big point. So it would be a committee.
We do have a committee that has jurisdiction over that right now, and so one thing.
But to combine the both.
No, I'm not rejecting it. Hold on. Just hear me out. So we want to make sure that we do that in conjunction. We can't have two overlapping jurisdictions. We have to be clear for our CLA and clerk when we have motions and stuff that it goes clearly to one place. So we should try to nuance that to make sure it's not other convention center sorts of items.
Only on the football stadium issue.
So why don't we work on that language while we have a couple of their folks, and we'll add something on the convention center, okay?
So you add that words, because that helps. When I explain to the public, this is not just about a football stadium, it's about an opportunity to welcome the world, as we've done in 32 and 84, with a grand view. And also, Mr. Miller, because this is a north-south field, as opposed to an east-west field, do you think those who receive the kicks will have trouble with the sunlight in the eyes? I think that's a technical question. I'm kidding you.
Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Actually, I was going to say that when I got up again, that I think we should add that to the title, because I think really that it is not just about a football stadium. It is. But when I began to understand the proposal of tearing down the West Hall of the Convention Center, I realized that it was that was really a huge part of this, and I would like to see that in the title of the ad hoc committee. And I'll work as Chair of Trade, Commerce, and Tourism to work with the items and with the President to obviously send the items that have to do. But, you know, everything that has to do with the Convention Center, by the way, now has to do with this. So we'll work on that together. I mean, everything from the privatization to the concessions. I mean, everything is going to be impacted at our convention center by this proposal. You know, I think we all, and Paul, you brought up the concerns about not spending a lot of money before there's a real deal. We don't really want to expend resources. So I guess my question to Jerry would be, when do you see this ad hoc committee actually holding its first working meeting? I mean, to me, it would not be until after we have a real proposal on the table, something we can actually analyze. Or do you see us meeting to set our parameters, set our goals? And I will say, I've agreed with almost everything you said, Mr. Krikorian, except for I don't like the idea of getting reimbursed for work that I think we should be doing anyway. This is our responsibility. This is our fiduciary responsibility to really look at this deal. If we have to stay late in the evening for this working group, if we have to come in early, I mean, this is our jobs, and I don't like the idea of having a private developer pay us back for our work. So that's the one thing I don't like. It's our job. And I think we're up to the task, and this is something we absolutely should be doing, separate and apart from what we're doing every single day. This is special. This is an opportunity. This doesn't come along always, but it's our job, and I don't like the idea of a private developer paying back government for work that I think we should be doing anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. Colleagues, I hear this discussion, and when we look at the process that we have here, we've always been transparent. We have things out in the open. In committee, we'll offer ourselves that possibility of having input from the public. I don't see any backdoor deals. What I see here is the possibility of creating jobs in an area that needs jobs. What I see here is nonprofits that currently benefit from Staples because of the philanthropic work of those involved in this process. And so when I look at this from a job generating point of view, why we continue to send these mixed messages is, to me, we're making it hard for people to look at LA as a destination for investment. Now, we're all going to follow the law. The committee is being set up to be transparent. We're all trying our best to create a revenue base that establishes a stronger general fund. All of that is connected. So I just hope that the message that's being sent here is that we are a business-friendly city, that we do see a future in this investment, and that we have value for those people who are looking for jobs at a time when people are losing their jobs, losing their homes, can't pay rent. And if you look at the ancillary impact to the neighborhoods around this facility, these are the most poverty-stricken areas of the city of Los Angeles. So, as Chair Plum, everything's going to be transparent. We're going to look at the impacts. We're going to look at all of these environmental issues. We have a CAO, a CLA that's going to be very diligent on our commitments and protecting the tax dollar. So I just want to send a message that we're doing this because we want to make sure the whole public has confidence in this process, and we're setting up the structure to make it transparent. But it's not that it's not because we're unfriendly or we do not want business. We want business. We want job generators, and we need to simulate an environment that makes us a destination for these types of investments. I just want to make sure that that's being amplified over and over again once we go through these kinds of discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Mr. Alarcon.
Yeah, I just want to speak about, while the idea of tracking the cost of the ad hoc committee might be initially felt to be positive, I think it's a very dangerous road for us to have an ad hoc committee that is paid for by a developer. And in this, not that we don't have processes that are paid for by developers, but what private interest is going to come to us and ask for another ad hoc committee that they'll pay for? And this is our job. This is what we're supposed to do. Are they going to be paying a portion of our salaries? I mean, that sets a horrible precedent, I think, and I would like to ask that as the city attorney reviews this, to consult also with the Ethics Commission, because I think it would be prime for ethical considerations that could turn this thing on the heel. On the face of it, though, I also am concerned about having the CLA and the CAO or whoever, the tracking agency, is spending so much time on the nickels and dimes when we're considering billions of dollars in potential economic benefit to the city of Los Angeles. And so we should keep our focus on that. And I also I thank you, Mr. Reyes, for saying something for positivity. Hey, we're not going to get anything through negativity. We're going to get it because we believe we can make it happen, and we can believe we can make it happen for all the right reasons, to create jobs, to stimulate our economy, and to create activity in the downtown area that replaces negative activity that's occurring. At the same time, a great opportunity to reinvest in a world-class convention area, which I believe should be one of those fundamental principles that I spoke of. So, no, we want to make this happen, and we want to make it happen in the right ways, but I don't think we should be focused so much on let's keep our eye on the ball. Let's not, the ad hoc committee's costs are so de minimis compared to the potential benefit that and with all the ethical considerations, I think we should be careful of how we proceed on something like that.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl.
Just another quick question, or for you to get an answer for us. When you go through this process, and Arnold Sachs gave me this idea, the Philadelphia Eagles, I know, put it on the record, people have ideas everywhere. Philadelphia Eagles have, their owner went ahead and in his structural design is making it the greenest stadium ever with solar panels and this and that. So when we get to the fine strokes of something, we want it to be as green as it can be and be another model like we've made the airport. Tom Bradley Terminal is going to be extremely green. Good suggestion from Arnold Sachs, and we should get an answer on that when you do the whole national look at the different places and what they're doing. Thank you.
Mr. Krikoyan.
I'll pass.
Okay, it passes. Mr. Labange, to close the bookend.
I just think it's real important, this discussion, with everything said. But let's not jump off sides. Let's line up, and let's win for Los Angeles if we do this. But have it very transparent. Have as many video cameras as Bill Belichick put in every practice team that he played against. That's an inside. Anyway, don't jump off sides. Let's do it right. Let's line it all up, and let's see if it's right. Because remember, this building was built in the 1920s when the Americas was very tough. And they saw the vision for this City Hall, the tallest building west of Chicago, the Olympic Games in 32, the big county hospital in 31. Yes, there is a vision, but also we should not lose the vision of what is our challenge in the fiscal crisis that not just us, but other municipalities are facing. And also, members, I think if we do this too, if it is right, we should work with the National Football League for 2 teams. The same objective, I know, is being done in the City of Industry to try to get 2 teams for the region. Ultimately, the decider of this will be the National Football League. But at the same time, I think we should work within that goal. Thank you. Let's not jump off sides. We're on the 1-yard line. We got 99 yards to go. If we score, we got to score for everybody well.
But in this wild card game, there's a late entry, and that's Mr. Paul Koretz, if you'd like to step forward for the first time and speak.
I just want to object to all the football puns. Even Paul Krikoyan had one inadvertently when he spoke twice, and on the last one he just said he'll pass. Sorry.
It's unnecessary roughness, Mr. Koretz.
Actually, one thing I do want to say is I don't think the fact that some of us are questioning whether we're gung-ho enough about this to go blindly forward means that we're looking at this in an anti-business way. In one sense, we want to put out a message. We're looking at this positively. If this works, we want to make it happen. At the same time, I think some of us also want to put out another message. If this doesn't work well for the city fiscally, and there are a lot of landmines that could make this not be the ideal fiscal deal that it appears, that we are not going to roll over. We're going to point out where those problems are. And if this isn't a good deal for the citizens of Los Angeles, especially in this fiscal mess, we're not going to go forward. We'll punt.
And that is the last commentary from the box. All right. With that, why don't we make that name, the full name, the Ad hoc Committee on the Downtown Stadium and Convention Center Renovation. If there's no objection to that, we'll cover all the issues that are described therein, and the reports as well. Please prepare the roll. for the creation of the ad hoc committee. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please. That brings us to item number 36, called special by Councilmember Huizar. Mr. Huizar, item 36 is before us.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. In light of building a multi-million-dollar stadium, building my bike corral in Highland Park doesn't seem all that spectacular, but I still think it's spectacular. It's going to be the first ever bike corral in the city of Los Angeles. We're going to take 2 parking spots, build a little corral, and make room for about 24 bikes on it. The Department of Transportation first had a very difficult time figuring out how to do this and what does it mean, but putting in enough safety precautions, I hope that this will be an example of what we can do in the rest of the city. So just want to say this is the last funding available last funding that we made available for this project, and I'm very excited. It's going to open up the next couple of weeks. Mr. Reyes, we border York Boulevard. You have one side, I have the other. This is an exciting project for our district. I want to also thank you for your help in expediting the bike lane that recently came up on York Boulevard as well. So we're promoting more bike usage in Northeast LA. Thank you. And if the NFL stadium doesn't work in downtown, maybe Northeast LA, we could look someplace there. Thank you.
Been there, done that, I think. All right, please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. On item 12, which is still before us, I will move approval of the recommendation on the public convenience of necessity. Please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved as well. And next order of business, please. Mr. President, Council has motions for posting and referral. Those are posted and referred. Next order is an excuse on the desk. Councilmember Reyes requests to be excused on March 22nd and March 23rd for city business. That meets council policy. All right, he's excused. And the desk is clear. Any announcements, colleagues? Mr. Lamonge.
As we adjourned in memory of Jack Popejoy yesterday, today marks the 40th anniversary of the 1971 Sylmar quake. I remember it. I was just out of high school. It was 6:01 a.m., and it rattled Los Angeles greatly. And I just wanted to remember the victims of that tragic earthquake. As always, remember Jack Popejoy.
Thank you. I remember that very distinctly, Mr. Lamonge. I was 5 days old.
Right.
Anybody else? Announcements? If there's no other announcements, if I could ask everybody to please rise for adjourning motions. We'll go Mr. Zine and then Ms. Perry. If I can ask everybody in council chambers to please rise first.
Thank you. Mr. President, this is on behalf of Councilmember Greg Smith.
Hold on 1 second, Mr. Zine. Mr. Gretz, if you don't mind rising, thank you. Go ahead.
This is on behalf of Councilmember Greg Smith, adjourning memory of Irving Fintech, real estate developer, philanthropist, past Cedar Sinai board chair, died February 5th, age of 92. Born November 11th, 1918, Des Moines, Iowa. Moved to Los Angeles as a child with his parents, Abraham and Ida, his siblings, Norman and Celia. Graduate of Southwestern Law School. Started the Liberty Building Company with his brother in the late 1940s. Together with Nathan Chappelle, developed Porter Ranch in the northwest San Fernando Valley. 1948, became involved in the Mount Sinai Hospital, where his brother Norman was president. Served as Joint Conference Committee chair during the hospital's decade-long merge process with Cedars of Lebanon, which started in 1961. A quote, "It was just not easy at the time," he told the Journal in 2002 interview. "It was going to cost us $130 million. We had to find out how we were going to get the money. Before we went to the bank, we had to show that we had the community support," he said. Ultimately, the community felt it was necessary. We didn't need 2 hospitals going after the same money. In November 5th, 1972, Cedar Sinai Medical Center held the official groundbreaking for its 1.6 million square foot, 1,220 bed hospital. Served as Cedar Sinai board chair from 1993 to 95, co-chaired the medical center's campaign for the 21st century, $180 million initiative to support new buildings and programs that ended in 2004 with Robert Silverstein. The pair worked together at Cedar Sinai for more than 56 years and are the only 2 people ever elected to permanent seats at the Cedar Sinai Board of Directors. Member of the Music Center's board and the West Coast chairman, counsel for the American Friends of Israel Philharmonic Orchestra. Also supported numerous causes
through the Family Foundation, Shane's Inspiration, the Heart Foundation, St. John's College, the Skirball Center, USC, Scholl Foundation Institute were among many causes close to the heart of the family. Also took delight in his role as an investment partner with Spago Beverly Hills, where he regularly dined and celebrated with family and friends. Services held February 9th, Hillside Memorial Park, in lieu of flowers. Family request donations be sent to the Heart Foundation, Cedar Sinai. He is survived by his daughters, Wendy, Lisa, grandchildren, Alexandria, Jordan, Pincus, nieces, Lynn and Vivian, nephew, Michael, and sister-in-law, Evelyn. May he rest in peace. Again, that is Irving Feintek.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zahn. Okay, we'll add Ms. Hahn to that. Ms. Perry and then Mr. LaBonge.
Thank you, Mr.
Let's do all
President.
members
And
on it.
I would like all members to be on this adjourning motion in memory of Leslie Nelson Shaw, Jr., son of Ann and the late Leslie N. Shaw, Sr., and the brother of Public Works Commissioner Valerie Lynn Shaw. Leslie was educated in public and private schools in Los Angeles and attended California State University at Northridge. For over 20 years, he was a real estate appraiser who was employed by various financial institutions, and he later became self-employed. He was loved by his family and loyal to his friends, and to respect his wishes, there will be no funeral. However, family members will privately gather to celebrate his life. Anyone who is interested can direct donations to the Les Shaw Jr. Scholarship Fund for View Park Prep students. And the fund is being administered by the California Community Foundation. And you can go to their website or call 413-4130. The family wishes to thank you for your thoughts and your prayers. And I think all of you know Valerie Shaw very well. So I hope that we'll all sign
Put
up.
all members on that. Thank you very much. Mr. LaBonge.
Yeah, Mr. President, I'd like you to join me on this. J. Paul Getty III, passed, 54 years old, passed in England. He had homes in Los Angeles and in England. He was the grandson of American oil magnate J. Paul Getty, and also the builder of the J. Paul Getty Museum. He's survived by his 2 children, as well as his mother Harris and his 4 younger siblings, including Mark Getty, the co-founder of Getty Images, our friend Eric, a prominent AIDS activist and homeless advocate, Eileen Getty, Andrea Getty, as well as half-brother Tara Getty. I ask we adjourn in memory of J. Paul Getty III.
Absolutely. Thank you for allowing me to join you on that. Any other adjourning motions, colleagues? If not, Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll? And